Hey guys, tonight we crawl into the sweat-stained boots of Silk Road traders, where every mouthful of food meant outsmarting rot, heat, and time itself. Picture this: you're squinting under a white-hot sky, camels snorting beside sacks of apricots already softening in the heat. That nice leather waterskin tastes like goat. That bread you baked yesterday, harder than Pharaoh's heart, if you're lucky. Let's get real, you wouldn't last 3 days. But hey, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop your location and local time below. Let's see who's braving midnight mosquitoes or dawn frost for this tale. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You crouch by a smoking fire, hands crusted with salt and regret. The caravan master barks orders 5 dozen camels to load by moonrise. Those dates won't dry themselves. That mutton's still dripping blood onto the sand. Hold that thought. Historians confirm old world traders buried butter in Irish bogs for centuries, but out here, you'll settle for shade and quick thinking. Your knife slices through pear flesh, too ripe, too fragile. A merchant from Samarkand side-eyes your work. Fold fruit into paste, he grunts, spreading a sticky mush onto flat stones. Sun-cooked leather, light to carry, genius, unless it rains. Spoiler alert, it won't. Days bleed into nights colder than a tomb. Meat laid on icy rocks freezes by dawn, shatter it into shards for stew. Wool sacks double as makeshift freezers. Simple, sure, until a sandstorm buries your stash. Rumor says some caravans hired ice chanters, weirdo mystics who sang to snowdrifts. Did it work? Probably not. But hey, despair tastes worse than week-old yak cheese. Salt becomes your new obsession. Rub it into fish, pack it around figs. Watch a pigeon die trying to steal your brined olives. Mainstream history loves waxing poetic about spice roots, but forgets the real MVP. A Persian trader's salted lemons. Sour, salty, life-saving. Here's the kicker. Historians still argue whether these methods spread through shared wisdom or stolen survival hacks. Did Gobi herders teach Egyptians to dry gazelle meat, or did some hungrier than smart merchant lick a random rock and call it dinner? You snort laugh into your fermented mare's milk tonight's delicacy. It fizzes, it stings, it pairs beautifully with homesickness. A guard offers you a smoked locust. You decline, he shrugs. Protein's protein. Somewhere between the 3rd sneeze and the 5th hour of chipping mold off barley, you get it. This isn't just about food. It's about outlasting doubt. Wind whispers through camel grass. Stars spin, your eyelids droop, but the desert isn't done with you yet. The road ahead bends like a dried apricot, and just as sweet, you crest a dune. The sun hammers your back like a blacksmith's anvil. Below stretches an oasis of activity. Traders spread fig, halves on woven mats as wide as marriage beds. This isn't snack prep, It's high-stakes chemistry. Forget your modern freeze-dried berries. These merchants battle decay with nothing but air and patience. Thin slices of melon curl into translucent moons under the glare. Workers turn apricots hourly, their fingers sticky with juice that'll soon crystallize into natural sugar armor. Meat strips dangle from ropes like bizarre wind chimes, sun-scorched until they're tougher than camel leather. You catch the tang of fermentation sneaking into the breeze, nature's backup plan. When dehydration races against mold, here's a nugget you won't find in glossy textbooks. Desperate caravan guards once napped under those meat curtains. They believed the salt-crusted strips warded off demons that caused food spoilage. Did it work? Well, nobody sneezed on the jerky. The real magic happens at night. Cool desert winds suck moisture from date palms, sticky innards, shriveling them into wrinkled energy bombs. Ever bite into a raisin and wonder who first risked eating a shriveled grape? Historians still argue whether dried fruit was genius or happy accident, though we'll bet some hungover merchant's apprentice gets the credit. Your nostrils flare at the stink of failure, a basket of plums left too long in shadow. They ooze black sludge onto the sand, a cautionary tale for distracted apprentices. Nearby, a cagey Kashmiri trader buries spoiled figs upside down. Superstition claims it protects the next batch. But you notice him quietly swapping his rotten stock into a rival's cart after dark. Picture this: dried apricots as currency, 3 strips by a water skin refill, 5 get you a camel's promise not to spit in your dinner. The math gets wild when monsoon rains threaten. A sudden downpour turns fig flats into a sticky battlefield. Workers scramble like ants, praying to weather gods whose names nobody quite remembers. You lick parched lips as a vendor tosses you a mango sliver. It's chewier than boot leather, sweeter than stolen honey. Suddenly, you're part of the chain, your saliva reactivating sugars dormant. Since the Han Dynasty sun first kissed this fruit, dust devils swirl around clay ovens where fish are laid to rest, not cooked, but baked into brittle sheets that outlive dynasties. The catch: you'll pick bones from your teeth for weeks. As shadows stretch into evening, workers bundle the day's haul into hemp sacks that'll cross mountains and bandit roads. Each crinkle of dried peach sounds like gold coins, clinking a lullaby for traders dreaming of Samarkand's markets. They don't know it yet, but their beet jerky will outlast the empire that spawned it. Moonlight glints off crystalline dunes, but the real treasure lies hidden underfoot. Your boot crunches through salt crust thicker than a pharaoh's sarcophagus lid. Welcome to nature's oldest preservative locker. Forget expiration dates. These merchants bury whole goat haunches in salty graves, a meaty time capsule against rot's relentless march. Workers chant as they rub coarse grains into lamb ribs, the sound like sandpaper on stone. Their hands glow raw, reddened by brine that stings like a scorned lover's slap. Across the camp, crust-caked fish stare blindly from salt pyramids, their leathery flesh compressed into protein bricks. One wrong step here could preserve you till next monsoon season. Here's a history class hook. Roman soldiers' salaries were literally salt money. Merchants on the Silk Road knew that truth deeper. Salt turned putrid Nile catfish into stable currency. X-ray scans now show 2,000-year-old jerky still clinging to caravan route ruins, though I wouldn't taste test it. A sneaky trick from the fringe archives. Some traders claimed camel-hooved salt purified meat faster. They'd trample carcasses underfoot, mixing sweat and minerals into a dubious speed cure. Did it work? Probably not. But it explains why certain jerky batches reeked of toe jam. Your eyes water as wind whips salted air into a throat-puckering fog. A Uyghur trademaster offers you a strip of something dark and glossy, horse biltong cured in terpene depression salt. It tastes like guilt and survival, chewy enough to reset your jaw alignment. Watching salt crusts form feels like geologic time-lapse. Lactic acid battles microbes in a microscopic war. Every shrinkage creak is a bacterial death rattle. Your stomach will thank those salty frontlines later. Speaking of thanks, ever notice how jerky makes you thirsty? That's not a bug, it's a feature. Dehydration was the price for non-lethal mutton. Historians still argue whether salt merchants were heroes or hoarders. Their monopoly could starve cities into submission overnight. You witness the quiet cruelty as a spice trader begs for a palmful of salt, offering saffron worth its weight in gold. The salt keeper snorts, his face a desert of disdain. Clay urns packed with salted perch-lined sand pits, tiny air holes whistling mournful tunes. Traders sleep atop these earthy freezers, their body heat just enough to prevent freeze-thaw betrayal. It's a delicate dance, one restless sleeper away from a very fishy morning. Dawn reveals the night's casualties, a cracked urn oozing brined duck eggs. The stench summons vultures that merchants swat away with salt-crusted switches. Avian thieves understand this white gold's value better than kings. Your tongue maps new textures. Camel milk cheese preserved in salt ash crumbles like ancient plaster. It coats your mouth in a mineral funk. Traditional Silk Road mouthwash. Pair it with shriveled plums from yesterday's haul, sweet and salty, panic in every bite. A commotion erupts at the salting pits. Workers uncover a perfectly preserved honey-glazed ham from 3 caravans prior. The crew debates the find. Is it accidental genius or pre-planned tomb food? Nobody volunteers as taste tester. The ham becomes a traveling mascot named Old Salty. As afternoon heat shimmers the horizon, caravans load salt-armored provisions onto groaning carts. The creak of hemp ropes blends with camel grumbles, a symphony of reluctantly preserved progress. You pocket a salt crystal, its jagged edges promising safe passage. THROUGH, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Japanese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter your gut on tomorrow's trek. Moonrise brings salt's final trick, air so dry it pickles your nostrils. Workers slather salted mutton fat on cracked lips, edible chapstick with a side of food poisoning risk. You drift to sleep counting salt grains, each tiny cube a monument to human stubbornness against decay's inevitable tide. The salt still crusts your lips when new odors assault your senses, sour tangs cutting through brine's sharpness. Dawn reveals bulging sacks tied to pack animals, not grain or dried fruit, but living cargo. Grains ferment in camel-hide bags, slung over saddles, each jostling hoofstep, stirring primordial brews into existence. You kneel beside a splintered barrel, its yeasty breath hints at barley, transforming into liquid courage. A Sogdian trader winks, offering a ladle of frothy liquid that bubbles like a swamp's last gasp. It bites your throat with vinegar ferocity, then warms your gut like a stolen embrace. This isn't your hipster microbrew. It's survival beer, calculatedly weak to avoid drunken camel drivers. Check this out. Mongol warriors reportedly rode for days on nothing but fermented mare's milk. The stuff's called arag, tart enough to strip paint, but packed with gut microbes to fight dysentery. Traders here use sheep bladders as portable breweries, sloshing probiotic cocktails that predate kombucha by a millennium. Watch a baker knead dough, not with water, but weak-souled fermented grape mush. The result, bread that's part sourdough, part mystery science project. It bakes into bricks even weevils can't dent, dunked in hot broth to soften before eating. One merchant jokes it doubles as a weapon. Last month's loaf cracked a bandit's skull. Now the weird part. Some caravans swore by traveler's cheese, left to mature in armpits during long marches. Body heat supposedly accelerated aging, though it sounds more like a prank gone horribly right. You decline a nibble of this sweaty camembert ancestor, its rind glistening like a cautionary tale. Listen, woven baskets hung upside down drip yellowish goo. That's yogurt straining through horsehair, separating whey from curds under the relentless sun. What's left becomes a crumbly cheese that outlives empires. Smart, absolutely. Appetizing. The flies seem hesitant. Historians still argue whether silk wasn't China's real treasure. But these hardened cheese wheels, excavated Hirotoshi jars, revealed dairy residue from Persia to Chang'an, proof that calories traveled farther than luxury fabrics. Most forget Genghis Khan's armies conquered continents, fueled by dried curds and resentment. Your nose wrinkles at a clay pot's contents, something between cheese and regret. A Tibetan herder calls it chirpy, aged, until it chews like flavored rubber. It's the jerky of the dairy world gnawed for hours to extract wisps of umami. Perfect for mountain passes if you enjoy jaw cramps with your survival. Over here, kids skim scum from milk vats, using palm fronds like nature sieves. The discarded film get sun-dried into translucent wraps, storing nuts or dried insects. Zero waste culture, eat the wrapper and filling. Just don't ask what's composting in the corners. Wagons creak past carrying leather satchels, each oozing suspicious liquid. These are kefir nurseries, cloth pouches nurturing gelatinous grains that transform fresh milk on the go. Lose your starter culture, and you'll be bartering for a spoonful from rival traders. Northern nomads guard their kefir, mothers closer than their children, the secret to gut health colder than Siberian winters. Nightfall brings a risky experiment. Someone buried a melon in fermenting grain. The result? A boozy fruit mush that half the camp declares drinkable. You take a ceremonial sip, imagine liquefied regret with a hint of cantaloupe. Laughter echoes as a drunk donkey stumbles through tents, proof that cross-species indulgence isn't a modern invention. By midnight, your belly hosts a microbial war zone. Acid battles alkalines, while mysterious bubbles navigate the chaos. Survival tastes like sour milk and poor decisions. But hey, at least you're not decomposing. Trade routes weren't built on bravery, they were built on guts. Literally, bitter beer fumes cling to your robes, even as new aromas rise. Cinnamon's sweet burn, and cloves' medicinal punch. The spice wagons creak into camp, their reed baskets puffing rust-red dust that tickles your sinuses. Merchants unpack bark shavings and dried buds, their true value measured not in taste, but in days added to rotting meat. You rub a clove between thumb and forefinger, its oil seeping into calluses. One sniff floods your mouth with phantom dentistry, centuries before dentists existed. Arab traders claim these flower buds quiet toothaches, but you're more interested in their invisible superpower. Clove oil doesn't just numb pain, it murders the microbes, feasting on yesterday's goat stew. Watch a cook pit's drama. Flies swarm a platter of roasted duck until he sprinkles cumin. The insects retreat like vampires from garlic. Science won't explain this for another 1,000 years, but caravaneers know the truth. Spices don't just hide rot stench, they wage chemical warfare against decay. Rumor has it Roman nobles paid cloves, weight in gold, craving their preservative magic for apricot preserves. Yet here, in this dust-choked outpost, a fistful buys 3 camels. The math explains those armed guards flanking the pepper sacks, their curved swords gleaming as sharp as profit margins. Ever heard of corpse cinnamon? Grave robbers in Alexandria supposedly stuffed mummies with spices to mask decomposition during black market sales. Whether true or tall tale, it inspired European apothecaries to dunk funeral shrouds in clove oil. The dead never complained, but live customers appreciated the ambience. Your guide tosses a peppercorn into the fire. It crackles like a tiny firework. This isn't showmanship, it's a safety demo. Black pepper's piperine fights mold, while its spiciness covers the tang of borderline yogurt. Smart traders mix it into grain sacks. Mice hate sneezing as much as you do. Check the ledger. A single cinnamon stick equals a month's wages for the camel boy. Yet he'll risk dysentery drinking dubious water, while merchants sip clove-infused wine from silver cups. Status symbol or sterilization tactic? Why not both? Here's a fun one. Medieval nutmeg was considered protection against plague. Crushed into amulets, not food. Some caravans still hang spice sachets around horses' necks to repel evil spirits and flies. Superstitions, just science waiting for a microscope. A crash. Someone dropped a basket of cardamom pods. The camp inhales sharply, not at the loss, but at the aroma now clinging to their sweat. You'll reek like a walking masala for days, which beats smelling like a walking corpse. Historians still argue whether wealthy Egyptians embalmed pharaohs with myrrh for sacred reasons, or because it slowed putrefaction during lengthy mummification banquets. Either way, the lesson stuck. You smear turmeric paste on a suspicious dates, its golden stain hiding discoloration. Dinner's risky tonight. Mutton skewers marinated in mystery sauce. Gingersol kicks in neutralizing toxins while making rancid fat almost palatable. You chew slowly, praying the antimicrobials outpace the bacteria. Across the fire, a merchant slips saffron into his wine. At these prices, it's cheaper than malaria medicine. The real power move. Cinnamon oil poured around grain stores. Ants march up, sniff, and U-turn. Modern labs will confirm cinnamaldehyde's pest-repelling powers. But tonight, you just enjoy an ant-free bedroll. Midnight brings a curious sight. Cribs hanging over coriander sacks. New mothers believe the herb wards off evil eye and colic. The baby's peaceful snores suggest it's working, or maybe they're just exhausted from camel lullabies. Dawn's first light glints on saffron threads, sunset red strands that cost more than silks. Their cross in pigment preserves meat's rosy hue, fooling the eye long after the nose knows better. You sketch a mental note. When in doubt, add color. And hope, the spice master, whispers a recipe for disaster, literally. Mix equal parts salt, crushed wormhood, and overconfidence. Spread under saddle blankets to prevent gangrene in open sores. His wink suggests it also works on questionable life choices. As camels rise with groans, their loads clanking with spiced-in armor, you inhale the future. These scents will birth empires, topple kings, and inspire wars fought over flavor and decay, all because some clever soul realized the best way to cheat death is to smell delicious. Doing it, dust settles around camels, burdened with clanking clay, their humps swaying under wax-sealed urns. You run a finger along one pot's cool surface, its rounded belly bulging with millet. Roman trade ledgers from Palmyra detail these exact designs, squat necks to minimize evaporation, proven by shards found near buried caravanserai. A porter slips the urn he catches teeters, but holds. Breath releases in unison, grain stays dry. Double-walled potteries, not just clever, it's why we're not eating weevil porridge tonight. The air gap between layers fights condensation like a terracotta thermos from the gods. Ever seen a camel scowl? They do when clay vessels clank against their ribs. Herders wrap hides around the pots, muffling complaints. That's your next defense. Goatskin sacks bloated with raisins. Stitched with heron hide facing inward, the follicles trap moisture, keeping contents bone dry. Watch a trader test a wineskin squeezing until air hisses through a hairline crack. He seals it with beeswax and sheep fat, a trick Babylonian brewers used for barley beer. You swear you smell yesterday's vintage. Or maybe that's just fermented foot wrap. Historians still argue whether spiral patterns on jars denoted capacity or warded off sand demons. Either way, the grooves give grip when palms sweat under a noon sun. Press your ear to a sealed urn. Hear the whisper of rice shifting like desert dunes. Laughter erupts as a merchant demonstrates emergency repairs, stuffing a leaky flask with camel dung and pistachio resin. Its biodegradable caulk stinky but effective. His grandfather supposedly patched Alexander the Great's canteen this way. The crowd's skepticism fades when water stops dribbling. Night unveils pottery's secret weapon, clay sweats. Moonlight glistens on moist patches, evaporating into the cold air. Each bead of moisture stolen from stored grain, a primitive dehumidifier working while you shiver. You pile hides over jars, wool fibers drinking residual dampness before dawn's heat returns. Check that suspicious sack near the fire, goatskin puckered from repeated soaking. Peel it open, dates inside glisten with crystallized sugar and zero mold. Arabs near Mecca perfected this, sun-drying fruit inside hides until they resemble chewy amber. A merchant offers you one. It's like biting into concentrated sunlight, if sunlight had lint. Ever heard of thunder jars? Nomads claim pots sealed during storms last longer. Superstitious nonsense. Until you notice the humid air can't penetrate quick-drying wax. Science or luck. You line up your canteens during the next downpour, just in case. Dawn reveals a tragedy. A cracked amphora leaking lentil soup down a camel's leg. Quick-thinking traders pour the remainder into a hide, add dried onions, and hang it to cook via saddle friction. By noon, it's lunch. Waste not, want not, and definitely not. Your guide points to hieroglyphs on a jar, a stick-figure camel with X's for eyes. Means fragile in trader can't, he says. Or maybe it's ancient doodling. Either way, you handle that one extra gently. The real magic happens underground. Dig past sun-baked crust, earth cools swiftly. Lower a honey pot wrapped in wet linen. Evaporation chills it like a desert fridge. Alexander's troops reportedly stored yogurt this way, though historians debate if it was dessert or science experiment. Watch apprentices coat new pots in rancid butter, waterproofing that doubles as rodent repellent. The stench ensures no one snoops your stash, including you. A merchant grins, security through stink, before gagging on his own creation. Moonrise brings a peculiar sight, jugs buried upright, with only necks exposed. Chill night air sinks into hollow chambers, condensing moisture on inner walls. By dawn, each yields a mouthful of dew. It's not much, but in the dash tea caviar, it's salvation. Unroll a goatskin map, its surface scarred with travel and time. The maker painted it with pomegranate ink, acidic enough to deter bugs. Modern hikers still use similar tricks, though their gear smells less like old delis. As stars prick the sky, you count containers like a miser with coins. Clay jars huddle together, their curves echoing the dunes. Hides hang like sleeping bats, swaying in the wind. Tomorrow's dangers demand today's dryness. And these silent guardians stand ready. Dawn paints the horizon peach as dunes give way to date palms, their fronds clattering like dry applause. Your camel's nostrils flare at the scent of water, hooves sinking into mud for the first time in weeks. Welcome to Al-Hassa, a jewel among oases where sand meets sugarcane. 10th century geographers called it Paradise's belt buckle. Though no one's found the matching sandals, merchants swarm like ants at a honey spill, their baskets brimming with walnuts from Samarkand and figs plump enough to blush. You watch a silk trader swap bolts for dried apricots, their orange crescents gleaming like tiny suns. Mainstream history remembers this spot as Palmyra's rival in luxury goods. But survival foods built its real power. Ever barter with scorpion venom? Desert healers here trade vials of it for salt, allegedly curing everything from migraines to marital strife. A withered woman offers you a clay ampule. 1 drop sharpens vision for night travel. 2 drops ensure permanent siesta. You politely decline. Her chuckle sounds like rattling pebbles. Dates rule these markets, sticky pyramids of them stacked higher than camels' knees. Vendors boast varieties with names like Moon's Teardrop and Sand Viper's Delight. Your guide crushes one between calloused fingers, checking for the white sugar crust that proves proper drying. Historians still argue whether date pits found in Viking graves came from here, or if Norse explorers just had good aim. Beneath a fig tree's shade, a bread maker kneads dough with raisins and crushed almonds. He bakes it on a flat rock, heated by midday sun, calling it dune bread. You break off a piece, it's sweet, chewy, and somehow tastes like shade. Watch children play caravan with hollowed out gourds, filling them with pebbles to mimic grain loads. Their mock arguing over imaginary spices mirrors the adults haggling nearby. One kid tries to sell you a lizard tied with string, guaranteed to find water, or at least trouble. The water sellers fascinate you, their goat bladders sloshing with liquid gold. They demonstrate purity by spilling a drop on hot stones. Steam rises odorless if clean. A sneaky vendor adds rosewater to mask brackish supplies, until an elder sniffs him out. The punishment: drinking 3 bladders of his own stock. Nuts become currency here, almonds as bargaining chips, pistachios for small favors. You witness a dice game using tiger nuts as betting tokens. A player wins a whole camel's load. The loser's face sours like month-old yogurt, but he pays up. At the oasis, edge workers pack your newly acquired supplies. They layer dried peaches between palm leaves, each wrap smeared with beeswax against humidity. Your guide whispers that Alexander's troops stole this technique from Persian kitchens right before they borrowed half the known world. Spot the peculiar moon melons piled under netting. Their chalky rinds repel insects, but crack open to reveal ruby flesh. Farmers bury them during the day to keep cool, a trick as old as the first thirsty traveler. You're warned not to eat the seeds unless you fancy 3 days of technicolor dreams. As sunset gilds the palm trunks, musicians pluck oud strings near the communal fire. A merchant from Chang'an passes you roasted chickpeas dusted with cinnamon. Eat 10, walk 10 li, he jokes, though his eyes track your portion like a tax collector. Night brings the nut market's secret ritual. Traders drop almonds into clay jugs to measure volume. The clink-clink echoes like uneven rainfall. Someone's always accused of using undersized nuts, leading to arguments resolved by eating the evidence. Poetic justice tastes suspiciously buttery. Your camel chews date pits from a feed bag, its lips stained sticky sweet. You pocket a few spares. Rumor says they boil into decent ink for maps, or maybe emergency rations when charm runs out. Morning departure brings a last-minute scramble. Traders shoving honeycomb into woven baskets lined with fig leaves. A girl sells you a thumb-sized clay charm shaped like a granary. Its hollow body holds a single saffron thread. For luck, she says, or possibly for yucks. Language barriers are fun. The final purchase: a watermelon strapped upside down in a net to prevent splitting. Its green stripes mock the barren sands ahead. You pat it like a trusted comrade, knowing its juice will taste like liquid rubies when the time comes. As the caravan reforms, a child runs up with a palm frond message. Scorched letters read, beware sour figs near red rocks. Local gossip or ancient Yelp review. You stash it anyway, right next to the scorpion venom you totally didn't buy. Shouts rise as the gates close, their wooden beams creaking like old bones. The oasis shrinks behind you, a green mirage swallowed by gold. Your new supplies shift rhythmically, dates rolling against nuts in a delicious lottery. Somewhere beneath them, all that dubious moon melon lurks, waiting. Your camel groans like a creaky door, its breath steaming in the chill before dawn. You run a hand over the hairless patch on its flank, a badge from ill-fitted cargo straps. Camels sway for balance, not comfort, each step a calculated tilt against gravity. Those undulating backs carry more than goods. They haul THE Chinese letter, between survival and starvation. Notice how your mount's hump leans slightly left. That's no accident. Bactrian camels developed double humps to store up to 80 pounds of fat, nature's jerry cans, for crossing the Taklamakan. Desert guides whisper that leaning humps mean they've drunk enough moonless nights to last weeks. You hope they're half right. The real magic hides beneath those foul-smelling saddles. Layers of felt and camel hair cradle amphorae filled with oil, each urn corked with beeswax-sealed linen. One jolt could spray precious cargo across the sand. But camels move with the stubborn rhythm of metronomes. Historians confirm they'd walk 24 miles a day without spilling a drop, assuming no wolves howled nearby. Watch the handler ahead, patting his lead camel's neck. He slipped date paste into its ear, an ancient trick to maintain marching tempo. The beast licks its leathery lips, overbite clicking like a wind-up toy. Rumor says Mongol messengers fed their camels apricot gum to strengthen spit, making them better at sealing cracks in water skins. You file that under, probably false, but oddly specific. Your own camel sneezes, launching a clump of half-digested thornbush into your lap. Charming. Yet those rubbery lips can pluck a single pebble from flour sacks, sparing precious meal from grit. Evolution's odd sense of humor at work. Nightfall reveals the caravan's hidden choreography. Handlers tie tinkling bells to the slowest camels. Their drowsy swaying becomes a lullaby for thieves. You catch two drivers debating whether camel urine cleans rust off blades. One insists it's gospel, the other snorts louder than the animals. Spot the runt at the rear, its load wrapped in suspiciously familiar palm leaf bundles. That moon melon you accidentally bought sways in its netting, still intact despite 3 near collisions. Camels excel at protecting fragile cargo, or maybe they just enjoy watching humans panic. Dawn brings the telltale clink of ceramic. A handler demonstrates how he stuffs amphorae necks with sheep's wool dampened to keep oils cool through midday infernos. It's the same principle as sweating, if sweat could age wine for 2,000 years. Mainstream scholars trace this technique to Parthian traders, but Turkmen herders swear their goats invented it during a drought. Ever heard a camel apologize? There's a Kazakh legend that bored caravans taught them to kneel and moan when dropping loads. Yours just grunts its version of you're welcome. After sparing your toes during a sudden stop, the midday halt features a tense inspection. A merchant wails over a cracked honey jar, its golden ooze attracting a parade of determined ants. The culprit, a young camel who discovered the joy of rubbing against rocks. Punishment involves carrying double water barrels and enduring mockery in 5 languages. You ration out fistfuls of O10 lentil balls, sticky with date syrup to mask the grit. Camels watch with judgmental eyelashes fluttering. They'd rather munch on thorny saxol roots, nature's barbed wire that somehow fuels 30-mile treks. Your guide lobs one a dried scorpion, a treat that crunches like overdone toast. That night, you glimpse the secret behind camel endurance. A handler rubs fermented mare's milk into his lead camel's gums, the desert version of an energy drink. The beast's third eyelid flickers, a translucent shield against sandstorms. Scientists only identified that membrane in the 19th century, but your guide calls it Allah's windshield. By week's end, you notice patterns in the cargo sway. Jars of pickled ginger rock, east, sacks of turmeric tilt, west. It's an accidental compass, the weight of spices mirroring the stars above. Someone hung cowrie shells as makeshift spirit catchers, their porcelain gleam warning away dust demons. Or maybe just bored teens with leftover craft supplies. The final test comes at a rock-strewn pass. Camels lift their legs like dancers, placing each foot with surgeon's precision. One misshapen urn nearly rolls free until the camel shifts its hips like a drunk courtesan. Crisis averted. Historians still argue whether amphora curves mimic camel nostrils. But try convincing that to the potter, who just almost lost his livelihood. When you finally dismount, your legs wobble like newborn fawns. The camel stares, its expression clearly asking why humans can't handle 8 hours of gentle rocking. You retaliate by feeding it a dried fig, which it spits into your boot. Fair's fair. As dusk settles, handlers sing off-key tunes into camel ears, their version of a lullaby. The beasts respond by regurgitating cud in perfect rhythm. You choose to believe it's gratitude. The moon melon survives intact its strange or a now camp legend. Someone suggests racing camels while balancing eggs on their humps. You decline, but take notes for future blackmail material. By journey's end, you've learned 2 truths. Camels are terrible listeners, but brilliant negotiators. They'll sabotage any load that offends their sensibilities. And every creak of those woven saddles whispers the same truth. Slow and steady doesn't just win the race. It keeps the spices fresh for market day. You shiver despite 3 layers of felt, the kind of cold that buzzes in your molars. Moonlight glints off iron-hard ice, clinging to the cliffside. A sight as absurd as snowflakes in hell. Welcome to the roof of the world, where merchants turned winter's bite into summer's pantry. Your boots crunch through frost-rimed gravel. Ahead, handlers chip at a frozen waterfall with copper picks, each strike echoing like a misfired lute note. They're harvesting moon ice, a crystalline currency more precious than silver up here. Mainstream texts mention Persian yakchuls, domed ice houses that stored winter's harvest for emperors. But here on the Pamir passes, you make do with wool-lined ditches and sheer stubbornness. Watch them line a pit with sheepskins, hair side up to trap cold air. Blocks of ice get nestled like fussy infants, each layer separated by straw stolen from camel bedding. A worker tosses in a handful of salt, not for flavor, but to buy extra days before meltdown. Like stuffing snow into a demon's armpit, grunts your guide. You decline to ask how he knows. The real trick isn't making ice. It's keeping it alive through a desert crossing. That's where apricot resin comes in, slathered over insulating, felt like nature's epoxy. Archaeologists found traces of it in 13th century Mongol canteens. Though a Kyrgyz herder once told you it doubled as an ancient hair gel. You file that under creative reuse. Tonight's prize, a clay jar of summer apricots submerged in their own syrup. Lowered into the ice cave, they'll emerge weeks later as a shock of sweetness in the Taklamakan's oven air. Rumor says Kublai Khan relished melon slices chilled this way, though historians still argue whether his famed ice riders galloped from Mongolia to Beijing or just robbed glaciers en route. Your guide offers a sliver of black ice from a north-facing crevasse. It shatters between your teeth cold, so sharp it feels stolen from a star. Swallow quick, he warns. Them gins want their breath back. Sure enough, your next exhale hangs visible, a ghostly debt repaid. Dawn reveals the ice crew's masterpiece, a mound of glittering chunks buried beneath goat hair blankets. It looks like a grave for a frost giant. They'll top it with sun-baked mud bricks, forming a dome that sweats in the daytime, but holds its chill like a grudge. You poke a melting fragment with your boot. A handler slaps your ankle. Respect the merchandise. Turns out ice has rules here. No whistling near storage pits. Invites avalanches. No stepping over ice blocks. Insults the mountain spirits. And never, ever mention the word thaw unless you fancy collecting camel dung in a hailstorm. The payoff comes weeks later, a scorching afternoon near Dunhuang. Your guide unveils a wool-wrapped jar. Inside, rose petal jam so cold it numbs your tongue, preserved like a moment stolen from winter. A Sogdian trader offers bronze mirrors for just one spoonful, but you're too busy licking the lid to care. Modern freezers hum with entitlement compared to this. No plugs, just physics and desperation. That apricot, it carries the crisp bite of a Pamir dawn, even as sand creeps into your sandals. Someone's teenage son tries chiseling his name into an ice block. Elders holler until he substitutes a crude drawing of a camel instead. It survives 3 days before melting, leaving a puddle shaped like a grumpy Bactrian. Art critics debate whether it's abstract or just bad. Campfire tailies swirl about ice's darker uses. A Uyghur storyteller describes poisoned blades cooled to slow venom's spread, though you suspect he's recycling Greek myths, more plausible. Caravanserai healers applying ice to fevered brows, early attempts at fighting heat stroke that sometimes froze eyebrows clean off. Midnight brings a bargaining session over ice shares. 2 merchants argue using abacuses and hand gestures, each click of a bead echoing the glacier's own creaks. They settle by splitting a block diagonally, proving geometry trumps greed. The loser consoles himself by eating a frozen grape, which sticks to his beard like a jewel. Your last glimpse of the ice cave comes at dusk. Workers light juniper torches, their smoke weaving through the dome's cracks like reverse incense. It's a farewell ritual. For whom? The ice, the mountain. That's like asking why camels blink sideways. Some questions melt faster than spring runoff. As you descend, your guide points to a distant peak. That's where winter lives when it's holidaying on Earth. You laugh until he peels back his sleeve. Scars ladder his forearm, frostbite from a storm that stole 2 fingers and a mule. Suddenly, the apricot's lingering chill tastes less like luxury and more like luck. Your tongue still carries the ghost of that apricot's frost when the honey arrives. Thick amber ooze dripping from a cracked clay jar. It hits your nostrils before your eyes register it. A floral punch that drowns out camel musk and sun-baked leather. Midnight negotiations secured this pot, traded for 2 iron arrowheads and a damaged lapis ring. Worth it. You watch a Sogdian trader dunk fistfuls of walnuts into the golden, goo his fingers moving with the speed of a hungry spider. Each cluster gets twirled until it glistens, then tossed onto a reed mat to harden under the sun. Honey doesn't expire, he smirks. It just gets angrier. Mainstream history backs him. Archaeologists found 3,000-year-old honey in Egyptian tombs, still edible, though you'd skip the pharaoh-flavored batch. A cotton beekeeper leans in her veil, dotted with drowsy drones. She whispers how desert hives were kept in hollowed-out poplars, and why traders licked their wrists before harvests. Bees respect sweat, she insists. Tastes like hard work. You test it later, dabbing honey on your pulse point. 5 stings and 1 swollen eyelid suggest she overstated the kinship. The real magic happens after sundown. Workers layer dried plums and apricots into goat stomachs, pouring honey over them until the organs bulge like golden udders. Buried in shaded pits, these grotesque piñatas won't mold, not with honey's acidic chokehold on bacteria. Historians still argue whether caravans used honey as medicine or just a sugar rush. A Samarkand scroll describes wound treatments, while your current camp prefers drizzling it over fried dough when guards aren't looking. You poke a honey-drenched almond with your knife. It strings along stubbornly, a gooey bridge between blade and fingertip. The trader slaps your hand. Respect the drag. Turns out viscosity equals value here. Thin honey gets mocked as BP, while the good stuff should make a scorpion march backward. Dawn reveals the folly of loose lids. A trail of ants converges on your tent, forming a living highway toward the honey pot. Your guide solves it with ash borders and crude insults. But not before you notice the ants hauling droplets triple their size. Feel inadequate yet. Bartering turns theatrical near Kashgar. A Hephthalite merchant displays honey cakes veined with sesame, each stamped with clan symbols. He claims they survived a 7-month journey from Bactria. though the mouse nibbles suggest otherwise. You bargain using pantomime and a string of mismatched coins, payment confetti, he calls it, until he relents, grumbling about soft-hearted city dwellers. The heat tests everything. By midday, honey layers melt into a lazy river inside their containers, forcing handlers to skim off eager wasps with wooden paddles. Someone's clever kid sells the dead insects as flying raisins to new recruits, until a drunk mercenary mistakes them for snacks. His spit and cuss routine becomes camp comedy for hours. Nightfall brings honey-laced rituals. Uyghur riders stir it into fermented mare's milk, creating a buzzy concoction that fuels dice games lasting till dawn. You gamble away a brass compass, but win a honeycomb chunk still wriggling with worker bees. They flee when you breathe on them, your breath, now suspiciously minty from chewing too much thyme. Mid-journey, desperation sparks innovation. A Yuzhe trader blends honey with crushed barley, forming adhesive bars that fix torn saddlebags and loose teeth. You catch him reattaching a donkey's shoe with the stuff. It holds until the next oasis, where the heat melts it into a hoof-shaped puddle. The donkey spends hours licking its foot, equal parts repair and recreation. Your own honey stash becomes currency. For a thimble-sized dollop, a cook seasons your lamb skewers. For 3, a musician teaches you a Bukharan lullaby. But the true power move, rubbing it on cracked lips during sandstorms, sweetness guarding your smile like edible armor. By the time Dunhuang's gates appear, honey's bestowed a patina on everything. Your fingers stick to bowstrings. Your journal pages crackle with crystallized drips. Even your nightmares now feature giggling bears, as a Kazakh horseman jokes, spreading honey on flatbread. Welcome to the stick road. You laugh until realizing your saddle has welded itself to your pants. Trade secret. Grape juice cuts through the mess. Also attracts more ants. Choose your misery. The final jar sits half empty in your pack, its surface cloudy with dust and fingerprints. Some idiot you tried writing their name in it days ago. The letters now blur, a sweet, dissolving epitaph for the journey. You scoop the last glob with a bare finger, letting it dissolve on your tongue like a stolen sunset. Bees did the hard work, but you'll take the credit. Smoke stings your eyes before you see the fire. This fog isn't haze from distant dunes. It clings to your robes like a jealous lover. All resinous tang and charred secrets. 3 paces ahead, strips of ibex meat dangle over smoldering juniper branches, the merchant below scowling as embers lick too close. Not barbecue, he growls. Medicine for meat. You learn fast. Green juniper needles get tossed onto coals, their smoke curling into blue tendrils that hug each meat ribbon. Archaeology confirms this. Neolithic sites near Samarkand show charred juniper pits beneath drying racks. Those resins don't just scent the air, they're nature's antibacterial spray. Almost like the Silk Road invented takeout containers, if takeout fought off maggots. A Kushan butcher demonstrates the knife work, slicing muscle into thumb-width straps without severing the sinew. Like gutting a promise, he chuckles. Strong enough to hang, weak enough to chew. His blade flashes, leaving meat curtains flapping in the dry breeze. You pocket a scrap for later comparison. It tastes like leather kissed by a campfire. Night shift brings the smoking shift. Boys' fans smoke through reed pipes, directing it into clay chambers stacked with goat haunches. One kid sneaks a bite, gets slapped with a ladle. His punishment: polishing rancid yak butter jars. You volunteer to taste test instead. The smoked meat hits your tongue, earthy bitterness, followed by a slow burn. Juniper's ghost, the butcher nods, chases rot better than hounds. Dawn reveals the fringe follies. A Scythian trader swears cedar from Lebanon makes meat taste like kings. He's selling charred strips stamped with fake royal seals. Your guide mutters about intestinal regrets, but you trade a dented flask for a sample. It's like licking a burnt wardrobe. The trader winks. Flavor lasts 3 days. Swallow with pride. Historians still argue whether smoke preserved food or just masked the taste of doom. A decomposed Han-era travel log mentions blackened meats that outran decay, but also warns travelers about fire-cheated tongues. Your camp splits the difference, smoking half the stash, salting the rest. Bedding pools form on which batch survives the taklamakan. You wager 2 copper coins on smoke. Regret it by noon. Insects test the method. Flies swarm the racks, only to recoil as juniper fumes flood their antennae. Midges drop like drunken raiders. You half expect a tiny white flag. A Uyghur elder cackles. Smoke repels pests and pretty suitors. My third wife left through the chimney. His laugh lines deepen. You don't ask for details. The true test comes at Taklamakan's edge. 40 days into the journey, your smoked ibex strip emerges from its linen wrap. It's tougher than a tax collector, but unspoiled. Biting it jostles your jawbone, yet the flavor blooms. Whispers of pine forests crushed under galloping hooves. Not bad for meat older than some marriages. Contraband spices the trade. A cotton smuggler offers sandalwood dust. Smoke your enemy's gifts. They'll never taste the poison. You decline, then spot the steward's son sprinkling it on a rival's venison. Camp drama simmers like the pits below. By dusk, 3 traders claim sudden allergies, conveniently avoiding bad debts. Rain threatens, the smoke master's nightmare. Workers scramble with felt tarps, while the butcher chants to forgotten cloud spirits. It works. The storm skirts the camp, trailing malice and a single fat raindrop. He claims its skill. You note his hidden chicken bone talisman. Some prayers come with claws. Fashion enters the fray. Your tunic reeks of perpetual campfire, a scent that repels bandits and potential lovers alike. A silk merchant sniffs. Smoke is the cologne of survival. Wear it or starve. You wear it, regret it, wear it harder. Final barter reveals smoke's currency. For 10 pristine strips, a Kyrgyz horseman trades a wolfskin cloak. It smells like victory and wet dog. He warns, wolves follow the scent, run fast, or share dinner. You consider stuffing the cloak with juniper. Compromise by sleeping near the fire. Moonlight stretches the rack's shadows into clawed giants. The watchman swears smoked meat moves at night, claims he saw strips slither like eels. You blame fermented milk until your own stash appears rearranged at dawn, a mystery for historians or hungry rodents with good taste. By journey's end, smoke's gifts linger. Your breath could cure a cold. Your fingernails hide resinous crescents. And that ibex jerky, still gnawable, as a Turkmen girl quips, snapping a strip like a lute string. Silk Road food never dies, just waits for weaker teeth. You chew louder. Tradition demands it. Your boots crunch over apricot pits, scattered like amber coins, each step releasing a faint sweetness into the dust. Ahead, a slab of dried plums gets pulverized under a stone roller. Workers chant as they press layer after layer into wooden molds, creating fruit bricks denser than a mule's molar. A Sogdian merchant pries one from its casing. Darius's army marched on these, he boasts, chipping a slice with his dagger. His claim holds water. Persian military records mention fruit wafers sustaining troops across Anatolia. You bite into a chunk. It sticks to your teeth like edible glue, with a tang that prickles your sinuses. The process is simplicity itself. If simplicity involves hauling 12 tons of fruit uphill. Workers spread pulped figs on reed mats, sunbaking them into leathery sheets. Layers get stacked with honey and crushed nuts, a Neolithic lasagna of calories. A Bactrian girl winks as she tucks a date pit into your palm. For luck, she whispers, planted where you fall. Taste tests reveal regional pride. Cotton's bricks ooze with mulberry molasses. Samarkand's virgin hides slivered almonds like buried treasure. One suspiciously soft brick from Kashgar smells like fermented regret. Your guide snorts. That's either fig paste or camel hide glue. Bet on the camel. Debates flare over pressing techniques. A Gansu trader swears by oxen-turned grindstones, insists bovine saliva adds binding enzymes. He offers samples. You decline. The silence afterward feels judgy. Compactness becomes currency. Caravans jettison clay jars for flat fruit slabs, strapping them to camels' sides like edible armor. A mischievous monk demonstrates their versatility. Roof repair, bandage wrap, impromptu pillow. His brick-dented cheek suggests some uses work better than others. Nightfall brings innovation's dark side. Thieves carve fake bricks from clay, and dung painting them with pomegranate dye. You spot a novice trader nibbling fruit that crunches like desert grit. His expression mirrors a man swallowing his own regrets. Your guide mutters, only fools buy midnight merchandise. And camels, mostly camels. Historians still argue whether these bricks fueled journeys or just lined merchants' pockets via resale. The Lulan excavations found warehouses stuffed with uneaten slabs, suggesting some traders valued profit over pantry space. You split the difference, stuffing your sleeves with genuine goods while eyeing the exit. Moisture is the enemy. A Uyghur elder demonstrates storage in camel fat-lined boxes, his hands flicking away flies like unwanted advice. Humidity turns gold into mold, he croaks. Guard your bricks like jealous wives. The analogy hits different when his 3 spouses glower from a nearby tent. Disaster strikes at high noon. A sandstorm slices through camp, scattering lighter provisions. Cheers erupt as the fruit bricks remain anchored, stubborn as tombstones. You hunker behind a fig-scented barricade, inhaling the unexpected perfume of resilience. Someone yells, "Eat the storm." It's unclear if they're joking. Bartering gets creative. 5 bricks buy you a damaged astrolabe. 8 secure a fox fur hat reeking of strategic errors. But the real prize comes from a half-starved scholar trading a bamboo scroll on irrigation for a single bite. He moans like a love-struck poet. You fear he'll propose. Fashion collides with function. A cheeky apprentice carves brick fragments into dice. Gambling erupts, players wagering fig-stained teeth over camelback races. You lose 3 rounds before realizing the dice are weighted with walnut paste. The appraiser's defense. All luck needs a little grease, doesn't salvage your pride. Morning reveals strange adaptations. A camel driver grates brick dust into his tea, swearing it cures saddle sores. His blissful smile suggests either potent placebo effects or undiagnosed madness. You stick to water, regret it by sundown. The true miracle emerges weeks later, crossing the Tian Shan passes. Frostbite nips your toes, but the brick in your pocket remains uncracked. Gnawing, it unleashes summer's ghost, honeyed memories of orchards and safer skies. A Tibetan trader nods. Sunlight in your palm, chew slow. Legends cling to the trade routes. Locusts supposedly avoid brick-laden caravans, repelled by fermented aromas. You spot a swarm veering north, but it might been the donkey's stench. Still, the tale spreads faster than dysentery. A miracle, cries a nun. Common sense, mutters your guide. Both might be right. Final campfire revelations skew philosophical. A Nestorian priest flips a brick like a sacred text. Adam's ribs were forged this way, compacted dust, given purpose. His flock nods. You nod harder, praying he doesn't ask your thoughts. Some mysteries should stay buried, like the brick chunk, currently challenging your digestion. Moonlight etches your path forward. Each brick in your satchel thuds like a heartbeat, a metronome for miles walked and markets yet unseen. The road ahead smells of raisins and reckless choices. You adjust the fox fur hat, grin into the wind. Let the next mouthful decide where the story bends. The reek hits first sharp and nose stabbing as a jealous spice merchants glare. You round a limestone outcrop to find vats bubbling like alchemical cauldrons. A wrinkled Uyghur woman stirs a wooden paddle through murky liquid, her arms glistening with vinegar droplets that sizzle in the sun. "Welcome to the sour shrine," she croaks, "where vegetables cheat death and dignity." Her fingers pluck a cucumber from brine, its once bloated flesh, now puckered tighter than a miser's purse. You take a cautious bite. Crispness obliterates caution. Sourness floods your mouth, eyes watering like monsoon drains. She cackles. Better than botulism, yes. Roman soldiers carried vinegar-soaked veggies in their packs, a fact you recall between coughs. The acid bite isn't just taste, it's salvation. Workers dunk turnips into clay jars, each submerged with the reverence of sinking a tiny ship. Salt crusts their fingertips. One mutters incantations to the brine gods, or maybe curses at his blisters. You pocket a hunk of bread dipped in pickling liquid. Field rations never tasted so alive. Ancient Mesopotamia's pickled onion recipes traveled further than their inventors, carried by traders who understood rot's impartial cruelty. Your guide points to a jar sealed with beeswax. 5-month-old radishes still crunch like fresh betrayal. You decline the offered sample, regretted when he adds, "They prevent night blindness." Too late now. A Khwarezmian merchant hawks virgin vinegar, fermented solely from snowmelt and pomegranate skins. His competitor snorts. Virgin, that brews older than his grandma's grudges. Laughter ripples through the pickling crew. You spot a novice stealing sips of raw vinegar, face contorting with each swallow. His master smacks his head. "Brain cells are precious, boy. Save some for camels." Historians still argue whether Sogdian traders guarded brine recipes like state secrets, or shared them as freely as fleas. Evidence leans toward fleas. A Kushan trader demonstrates his family's 7-spice pickle, dried scorpion venom included. "Add zing," he insists. You counter with hesitation. He shrugs. "Or don't. More for dysentery victims." Disaster unfolds at dusk. A camel kicks over a vat, flooding the camp with what smells like divine indigestion. Workers scramble, sopping up precious liquid with tunics and prayer mats. The Uyghur matriarch remains calm. Vinegar learns the earth now. Next year's crop will taste interesting. Her grin suggests cosmic mischief. Tiny jars become bargaining gold. 3 pickled eggs by a Thessalian dagger. 6 secure a map to hidden springs, inked on lambskin reeking of dill. You trade fox fur trimmings for a thimble of Chinese black vinegar. Its umami punch nearly unhinges your jaw. The seller nods. 1 drop flavors a well. 2 drops topples kings. Nighttime pickling takes a mystical turn. Moonlight steeps through cabbage leaves packed in juniper barrels. An Armenian priestess hums as she layers herbs, her hands glowing with fermented residue. "Goddess Hecate blessed this batch," she murmurs. "Taste the underworld." You nibble a leaf. It burns going down and up. Innovation sparks rivalry. A Gandharan engineer unveils a donkey-powered grinding stone for crushing sour grapes. His rival counters with a bamboo pipeline funneling rice vinegar into leather bladders. Neither impresses the Uzbek caravan master. Fancy tools break. These, he slaps a clay jug. These understand silence. Your gut becomes a battleground. Pickled lotus root wages war on last night's questionable mutton. A Nestorian healer prescribes licorice root tea and self-reflection. You opt for the tea. Skip the reflection. Some choices deserve darkness. By week's end, your tongue maps gradients of sour. Golden vinegar from Bactria whispers of apricot orchards. White Korean brews attack like citrus ninjas. A batch from Taxila tastes suspiciously like despair and ginger. The Uyghur matriarch catches your grimace. Ah, widow's draught, for preserving more than food. She doesn't elaborate. You don't ask. Gifts emerge from brine. A Persian trader presents rose petal pickles floating in heart-shaped jars, betrothal tokens for patient sweethearts. You witness a proposal dissolve when the bride samples her gift. You think I taste like old roses. His retreat is pickle adjacent. Rain threatens catastrophe. Workers lash tarps over vinegar vats, faces taut as drumskins. A lightning flash reveals the absurdity. Grown adults guarding fermented cabbage like dragon's gold. Thunder drowns your chuckle. Priorities shift when survival tastes of salt and sour. Farewells come with quirks. The Uyghur woman presses a jade vial into your palm, liquid, inside swirling like storm clouds. Armenian ghost pepper vinegar for enemies or very dull rice. You promise discretion. Her wink suggests alternative uses best left unspoken. The road ahead smells less like danger, now more like an overzealous salad. Camel bells clink in time with sloshing saddlebags. Somewhere ahead, snowmelt and honey await. But for now, sour reigns. You suck a pickled plum pit. Its acidic tang etching resolve into your teeth. Time to outrace decay again. The sour sting fades as frost nips your nostrils, replaced by a barnyard funk, thick enough to spread on bread. Yaks low in the distance, their breath fogging the Himalayan dawn. A Tibetan herder thrusts a wooden bowl into your hands. The contents resemble curdled moonlight. Drink, he commands, or the Yeti steals your warmth. Yak milk's richness coats your tongue, grassy and stubborn as the mountains themselves. His wife needs a rancid-smelling lump atop a stone slab. Second life of milk, she explains. Her hands work the cheese like sinner's clay, pressing regret into every crumbly crevice. You recognize this from Marco Polo's journals. Tibetan cheese bricks traded for Sichuan silk along treacherous passes, but he omitted the aftertaste, a slap of sour that lingers like unpaid debts. The herder laughs at your grimace, better than starving when blizzards block the womp. A cheese wheel rolls past, chased by children, using dried dung as hockey sticks. Their game weaves through racks of aging curds. One block sports bite marks, Marmot, grumbles the matriarch. Lazy thief, leaves the rind. Cow's milk freezes in these altitudes. Yak milk resists its fat globules clinging together like terrified villagers. Science confirms this centuries later. You watch her strain curds through horsehair mesh. Each squeeze echoes the landscape, harsh, efficient, survivable. Distrust the smooth-talking merchant offering royal cheese, his goods suspiciously free of yak hairs. Authentic chunks bristle with strands as wiry as the beast's backs. You haggle using a broken comb. He relents. The cheese tastes of triumph and yak dander. Historians still argue whether Tibetan monks used cheese molds to send coded messages. A fresco in Dunhuang suggests maybe. Here, riddles are simpler. A cheese seller winks as he wraps your purchase in birch bark. Good for trading, better for bribing border ghosts. Sour milk's reek clings to your robes. A Kyrgyz trader sniffs you disapprovingly. Smell like my third wife's revenge. He offers fermented mare's milk instead. It fizzes like venom. Your stomach stages a mutiny. The yak cheese suddenly seems diplomatic. Watch the crust formation, a geology lesson in miniature. Salt rubbed into rinds mimics mountain strata. One elder carves devotional symbols onto wheels, protects from demons and inspectors. His knife slips. The cheese gains an accidental swear word. Perfection. Moonlight transforms the dairy caves. Whey drips into basins, each plink echoing off ice-encrusted walls. A novice sneaks a nibble. His master drags him by the ear. Age respects no thieves. Come back in 3 winters. The boy's pout could curdle fresh milk. Disaster strikes at high noon. A cheese-laden mule bolts toward a cliff. Herders tackle it mid-rear, saving the cargo, but losing their dignity. The wheel teetering on the edge. Special reserve, groans the owner, aged 12 years. It plummets. Silence. Then, new village legend, shrugs a bystander. Cheese of the damned. Bartering intensifies at dusk. A brick of mold-speckled curd buys a Turkic dagger. 2 bricks secure a scarred hunting hawk. She eats thieves, warns the seller. The bird eyes your cheese stash. You reconsider double-checking the leash. Taste test gone awry. A ripe sample launches your tongue into rebellion. The maker pats your back. Strong reaction means strong cheese. His breath smells suspiciously medicinal. Later, you glimpse him chugging fermented barley tea. Not all heroes wear capes. Snow muffles the midnight hustle. Packers wrap crumbly wedges in nettle cloth, each labeled with charcoal symbols. One scrawl matches your stolen map's markings. Coincidence, the head cheesemaker side-eyes your curiosity. Knowledge ages faster than milk here. Careful. Farewells taste salty sweet. The herder's daughter gifts a necklace of cheese rind carved like lotus flowers. For safe passage, she mumbles. It reeks gloriously. You'll treasure it until the first desert sandstorm or hungry jackal. Yak butter lamps flicker as you depart, their smoke clinging to your sleeves like cheesy perfume. Ahead lie the the saffron fields of Kashmir. Behind the persistent aftertaste of survival, you nibble your reserve brick. It crumbles like ancient plaster, yet sustains like hope. The saffron air fades as dunes rise, their slopes sharp as a baker's knife. A Uyghur woman slaps dough onto scorching clay, each slap echoing across the dead salt lake behind her. Bread for the damned, she croaks, or the blessed, depends how many teeth you lose. Your thumb tests a cooled disk's edge. It could skin a goat or block arrows. Locals named these loaves jaw stones, but Silk Road archaeologists still fight over crumbs found in Xinjiang tombs, carbon dated. No mercy. She bakes 36 at once, smoke curling into shapes like lost camels. Wheat flour mingles with grit from Gobi winds. Extra flavor, she winks. You pray it's just sand. Buyers whisper of worse additives. A rogue scholar once claimed Silk Road bread contained accidental protein, ground beetles that tumbled into open-air dough. The process defies haste. Knead at dawn. Bake till noon. Cool till dusk. You watch her time it by shadow length, a sundial drawn in flour. Her teenage son stacks loaves into hexagons, a geometry that survived Genghis Khan's wrath. Breaking bread requires strategy. Smart travelers soak chunks in hot tea, watching steam hiss off the crust. Impatient ones, they'd sooner crack molars. Your guide demonstrates splitting a disc with a chisel. Breakfast and weapon, he shrugs, also fixes wagon axles. Nightfall brings barter theater. A Sogdian trader demands 80 loaves for his Persian mastiff. Dog eats better than you, he roars. The baker retorts with a bread-grinding pantomime. A crowd gathers. The deal settles at 60 loaves, plus 5 for the dog. Carez water turns the stuff edible barely. You dunk a wedge, counting breaths. The baker's daughter giggles. Old trick, she says. Grandma soaked hers in mare's milk. Died at 98. Teeth like a wolf. Disaster strikes at a river crossing. Your saddlebag tears, loaves plunging into rapids. They skip across water like stones. The guide mutters a sacred text. Hail Marys won't help, scoffs a porter. Those'll reach Samarkand by spring. Stale bread breeds creativity, crumbled into mutton broth. Grated over fermented honey. You witness a drunk merchant fry slices in sheep fat, creating a gut bomb he names Dune Donuts. His bellyache echoes through camp. Historians still argue whether these loaves inspired Chinese military biscuits or just shared the same existential despair. The baker settles it. She trades 10 discs to a cotton soldier. For your commander, she smirks. Tell him his mother's recipe improved. Midnight reveals the bread's secret. Frost slicks its surface, transforming it into a warped mirror. You glimpse your gaunt face. A merchant snorts. Eat the reflection, triple the portions. His laugh dies when you try. Caravanserai rumors swirl. A legendary loaf allegedly survived 2 silkworm plagues and a Mongol siege. An exhibitionist prince used one as a platter. You ask its whereabouts. The baker spits. Same place as honest tax collectors, fairy tales. Dawn breaks, and with it, your resolve. You gnaw a corner, embracing the struggle. The flower's bitterness fades to something almost sweet. Almost. A child barters for your crumbs. You trade them for a slingshot lesson. The baker gifts a heart-shaped loaf at departure. For love, you ask. She shakes her head. For practice, shoot it when bandits come. The bread arcs through polluted haze, hitting a cactus. Both survive. Your final bite coincides with Kashgar's skyline. Crumbs dust the manuscript where you'll record this culinary heresy. The aftertaste lingers, a gritty hymn to human stubbornness. Somewhere, a historian's teeth ache in sympathy. Moonlight etches the caravan's shadow onto dunes, a ghostly twin racing east. You count constellations as the guide barks at lagging camels. Faster than a hungover pigeon, he yells. Someone mutters that pigeons don't drink. The argument dies when a sugar trader's sack bursts, crystals glittering like false hope. Time bleeds in the desert. Days blur. Nights become mile markers. The North Star glints above like a celestial nag, never blinking, never impressed. You learn to walk while sleeping. A Bactrian camel's hump makes a decent pillow if you ignore the smell. Monsoons loom in whispered rumors. One merchant claims they can melt a man's boots. Another swears he's seen sugar cubes grow feet and flee south. Everyone agrees on the cure: speed. Your caravan's astronomer, a chain-smoking Uzbek, calculates phases on a bronze disc. Full moon in 6 nights, he rasps. After that, the sky pisses. The routine's brutal. March till muscles scream. Sleep in shifting sands. Repeat. You sip brackish water from a goatskin, spitting grit. Dates stuffed with crushed almonds stick to your teeth. Somewhere ahead, Samarkand's markets rot with overripe melons. Behind, Kashgar's bread haunts your molars. Starlight reveals hidden paths. The guide points to Scorpio's tail, a crooked line leading to water. Follow the thief constellation, he grins. Steals dawn's first light. You don't ask for clarification. Down the dune, a drunk cartographer swears the stars are wrong. Ptolemy lied. He slurs. The moon's a cheese wheel, and I'm the mouse. Historians still argue whether caravans prioritized celestial navigation over land markers. You witness the truth. Desperation trumps both. When a sandstorm cloaks the stars, the Uzbek lights a juniper branch. Smoke rises east, he coughs. Follow the choke. A child shares a trick, licking quartz crystals to predict rain. Tastes like rust means storms, she insists. You try it. Tastes like sand and bad decisions. Later, you spot her trading magic rocks to a spice merchant for extra raisins. Speed costs. A camel collapses, knees buckling like wet parchment. Its load of peach preserves gets redistributed. You strap a clay pot to your back, resin coating your shirt. Congratulations, snickers a porter. Now you smell like a brothel's doorstep. Midnight madness strikes. A silk trader sprints ahead, howling at Orion. my shadow, he shrieks. The guide sighs. Full moon fever happens every trip. You find the man at dawn, asleep in a scorpion nest, unharmed. Luck or lunacy? The caravan votes both. Your boots disintegrate. Feet swell. The Uzbek offers a salve of fermented honey and regret. It stings. It works. You limp past a skeleton still gripping its ledger. Tax collector, the guide guesses, or a really bad gambler. The last well before Samarkand appears, a cracked stone mouth surrounded by dead willows. Water seeps slow as grudges. Camels bray. Men shove. You drink greedily, then vomit. The guide pats your back. Good, now you're light enough to fly. Dawn of the 6th day. The Uzbek's fingers tremble as he adjusts his disc. Monsoon's breath is close, he warns. The caravan surges, a lunging beast. Silk bales tilt. Sacks burst. No one stops. You hit Samarkand's gates as storm clouds bruise the sky. The first raindrop hits your neck, warm as blood. Merchants sprint past, cradling sugar loaves like newborns. A Kyrgyz girl laughs at your resin-caked shirt. Walk faster next time, she mocks. Her teeth sparkle. You hate her a little. The downpour starts in earnest, drowning alleys, swelling gutters. You crouch under a dripping awning, watching sugar melt into gutters. Gold becomes syrup, fortune becomes mud. The guide joins you, wringing out his turban. We beat the sky, he says. Your blistered feet disagree. Somewhere in the deluge, a donkey brays triumphantly. Or maybe it's just the wind. Hard to tell. Harder to care. You peel a sodden date from your sleeve, eat it, and wait for the stars to return. Rain drips through the awning's tears, each drop hitting your neck like a cold fingertip. Across the muddy square, a tea seller waves you over. His clay pot steams with something minty, sharp, and green, cutting through Samarkand's soggy rot. 7 coins fixes belly aches, he promises. You counter with 3. He spits in the dirt. Turns out, you're his first customer since the monsoon hit. He relents, pouring a cup that smells like crushed leaves and false promises. The first sip punches your sinuses. The second unknots your gut. By the third gulp, you're almost grateful for the rain. Merchants swear by these bitter brews, mint for purifying water, time for calming storm-stressed stomachs. Historians note Arab traders carried dried herbs in wax-lined pouches, a practice dating back to pharaohs who stuffed mummies with parsley. You wonder if dead kings ever appreciated the irony. Spiced eternity. A spice girl elbows past, hawking celestial chamomile from woven baskets. Her pitch. Even camels stop burping after a sip. You watch a driver force-feed his groaning beast a thorny bundle. The camel's subsequent belch scorches a nearby rug seller's eyebrows. Not all herbal wisdom's practical. Some caravans believed chewing lavender prevented snake bites, despite 0 evidence. You spot a pilgrim rubbing rose oil on his soles. Softens calluses, he insists. His feet look like chewed leather. The tea seller leans closer. Real secrets in the stems. He reveals a thumb-sized clay vial, powdered willow bark inside. For fever, he whispers, or to make rivals sleepy. His wink suggests multiple use cases. Rain slackens, the market surges, a wet din of bartering and slipping donkeys. You trade your resin-stained shirt for a pouch of jasmine buds. The fabric's new owner sniffs it deeply. Ah, you met a Kashgar pine tree, yes. His grin reveals a thyme leaf wedged in his teeth. At a vinegar stall, a debate erupts. A nun claims boiling mint kills demons in water. A silk trader argues it's just for taste. Demons hate freshness, she snaps. He retorts, so do I. You pocket both their pamphlets. Night falls, oil lamps painting the puddles gold. The caravan guide finds you, reeking of fermented mare's milk. Drink this, he orders, thrusting a warm brew at you. It tastes like licorice and regret. Prevents dysentery, he says, so does not swallowing puddle water. But you nod anyway. Historians still argue whether herbal remedies truly worked or just placeboed desperate merchants. You sip the sludge, bitterness coating your tongue. Nearby, a child sells moon-whispered sage, guaranteed to repel scorpions. His sales pitch: a live scorpion in a jar, ominously still. Dawn brings drier air and buzzing flies. You crush jasmine between your palms, rubbing the oil on your neck. The scent clings like a jealous lover. A passing baker sneezes. Save some for the rest of us, poet. By noon, you're trading thyme sprigs for figs. The vendor stuffs a leaf in her nose. Clears the pipes, she explains, voice nasally. Her toddler mimics her, sneezing into a date palm. The cycle continues. At the caravanserai's well, a monk demonstrates water dancing, swirling mint in a cup before drinking. Confuses the evil spirits, he declares. A skeptical spice trader mutters, also confuses the water. You try it. The spirits remain unperturbed, but your breath improves. The guide reappears, nursing a hangover and a grudge. He eyes your herb stash. Chew this, he growls, tossing you a twig. Its licorice root, sweet, earthy, slightly fungal. Your jaw aches within minutes. Cleans the teeth, he smirks. So does sand, but quieter. As stars emerge, you join the herbalist's circle. They pass a pipe filled with smoking sage. For visions, croaks an old woman, you inhale coughing till tears blur the firelight. The only vision, regret, and possibly a coughing fit. By midnight, the squares piled with herb bundles, sage for wisdom, mint for mercy, thyme for courage. You pocket a stolen sprig of something floral. Could be lavender, could be ditchweed, survivals, all about educated guesses. The tea seller finds you dozing against a water barrel. He drops a pouch in your lap, willow bark, jasmine, and one dubious mushroom. For the road, he yawns. You pay him in resin-stained memories. He doesn't complain. Somewhere, a camel chews a thyme bouquet, its breath, now a weird mix of clove and hay. The driver swears it's medicinal. The camel seems philosophical. You walk away before witnessing the aftermath. Morning departure brings chaos, And one last herbal gift. The spice girl tosses you a honeyed mint cube. For the mountains, she shouts. It melts on your tongue, sweet and stinging, like most goodbyes. The guide bellows. Camels groan. You trudge forward, lungs full of sage, pockets full of maybes. The fire pops, sending sparks spiraling into the inky sky. An elder trader unwraps a fish so salted it could mummify a camel. Listen sharp, he rasps, tapping the leathery slab. This story's your pantry. His voice weaves through the crackling flames, a tale of moonlit nets and silver-scaled catches. Each plot twist hides instructions. When the hero scales a cliff, that's when you layer salt between fish ribs. The villain's 3-day siege. 3 days of sun-drying, obviously. You smirk until he quizzes you. How long to brine perch in summer? Blank stares. He sighs. Same time it takes a jealous wife to notice her husband's new scarves. Murmurs ripple. 17 days. Someone blurts. The elder nods, tossing them a fig. Stories aren't just entertainment here. They're survival flashcards. Mongol riders once sang meat-curring ballads to their horses. Persian salt vendors still chant drying rhymes their great-grandparents crooned. Your guide mutters, try forgetting a recipe when it's about your aunt's disastrous wedding. A merchant's daughter demonstrates singing while deboning carp. Her melody maps the steps. Gut, rinse, press, stack. Miss a verse, you've just salted the fish's eyeballs instead of its gills. Historians still argue whether these mnemonics preserved food or just distracted people from rotten smells. The elder peels a brined plum. Taste this. It's like licking the ocean, then discovering honey beneath. Story food, he grins. Folklore claims Sogdian traders hid maps in fermented bean paste. Crack the code with your tongue. Find safe routes through the Pamirs. Someone offers wine steeped with thyme. You decline. Big mistake. Now you're volunteered for the grape-stomping area. A ditty about drowned Phoenician sailors that somehow teaches proper fermentation timing. Your rendition earns pity applause and a wet tunic. Midnight brings a rival storyteller, a crone with teeth stained walnut black. Her version's darker. A weaver poisons her husband's dried apricots with ground peach pits. Notice the rhythm, she croons. 4-beat lines mean 4 weeks of storage. 5 beats. Toxic. The crowd edges away. Traders trade more than goods here. They swap cautionary tailies. A Uyghur merchant shares a song about moldy melons that caused a camel civil war. The refrain's the trick, he insists. Hum it while packing fruit, supposedly wards off fuzzy spores. You try composing your own. When the sky weeps and the sand sings, the elder snorts. Stick to tasting. He force feeds you a fermented chickpea paste. It tastes like guilt and garlic. But hey, you won't forget the recipe. A fight breaks out over raisin storage ballads. 2 merchants debate whether camel milk choruses work better in minor keys. The elder rolls his eyes. They're both wrong. Real music needs goat bells. He produces a clanking monstrosity, trauma masquerading as percussion. Dawn approaches. The fire dies to embers. The elder hands you a scroll until you unroll it. Just fish skins sewn with kelp thread. Your turn, he says. Tell the story. Preserve the knowledge. Try not to put everyone to sleep. Your audience, 3 half-drunk mercenaries and a llama. You begin. There once was a sardine from Samarkand, the llama spits. The mercenaries groan. Somewhere, 1,000 ancestors facepalm, but the elder smiles. However clumsily, the recipe survives. The fire's last embers hiss as someone drags a smoke-blackened kettle from the coals. Steam uncurls like a desert spirit, its tendrils carrying the earthy musk of compacted tea bricks. Drink it wrong, a Uyghur horse trader warns, and you'll spend tomorrow watering the sand with your guts. You watch them pry apart the hard, dark slab. It crumbles like dried mud, flecks floating in water that's just shy of boiling. Turns out your thermos, great-great-grandpa, looked like a dried cow patty. Mongol armies practically built the Silk Road on this stuff, lightweight, long-lasting, and lethal to whatever nonsense lurked in questionable wells. A Tibetan merchant swirls his cup. 5 steeps per brick, he recites. First for the gods, second for your teeth. Third, he winks. Thirds for staying awake when the bandits come. His laugh sounds like gravel rolling downhill. You sip. It tastes like someone liquefied a forest floor pine needles, wet soil, and a punch of tannins that puckers your tongue. But the heat feels like armor settling in your stomach. Historians still argue whether merchants valued tea more for sterilizing swamps, masquerading as water, or for the caffeine jolt that kept guards alert during moonless watches. The horse trader snorts. We used to test water purity with carp. He mimes dropping an invisible fish into your cup. If it floated sideways, you added extra tea. If it sank, he draws a finger across his throat. Someone offers you a luxury upgrade, yak butter globbed into the brew. You decline politely. The trader shrugs, tossing the butter to a grateful dog. Smart choice. Last guy who drank that spent 3 days recollecting his ancestors through his sandals. A commotion erupts down the line. 2 Sogdian brothers bicker over tea storage techniques, one swearing by ox bladder pouches, the other by lacquered bamboo. The elder silences them with a whistle. Fools. Real masters use bricks within bricks. He thumps a suitcase-sized block that could stun a yak. 5 layers, pressed under prayer wheels for 7 moons. You drift toward the tea's secret weapon, its role as a social lifeline. Shared cups seal deals. Stolen sips spark wars. That sticky residue lining your mug, same stuff coated Genghis Khan's messengers when they rode 18 hours straight, hooves pounding, as they gulped lukewarm brews from saddlebags. A Kyrgyz girl demonstrates the throat pour, chugging scalding tea without spilling a drop. For when wolves chase you, she explains, your attempt leaves blisters. Her grandmother cackles, revealing teeth stained the deep brown of aged puer. Wrong genre. Love songs make you sip slow. War ballads, she downs a cup mid-sentence. Moonlight stripes the camp. Guards crunch fermented tea leaves like tobacco, their breath sharp and medicinal. You're handed a brick stamped with a twin-humped camel. Break it only in storms, the trader warns. That one's got ginger and horseradish. Clears sinuses better than a kick from the camel itself. Dawn finds you clutching an empty cup, the dregs thick enough to stand a spoon in. Your pulse thrums like a over-tightened lute string. Somewhere between the fourth and fifth pour, tea stopped being a drink. It became fuel, memory, a steaming thread connecting 2,000 miles of restless feet and watchful eyes. The horse trader packs his bricks with ritual care. Next time, he grunts, try the Khyber Pass blend. Tastes like hell's basement, but one sip and you'll punch a snow leopard. You nod, already craving that bitter burn. The road ahead reeks of uncertainty, but at least your water won't murder you. Frost feathers spread across your empty cup as winter's first true bite sinks into the Karakum soil. Somewhere north, where the sky eats the steppe, a rumor whispers through merchant circles. Cold isn't just an enemy now, it's a larder. You follow fur-clad traders to a hillside pocked with trenches. They're burying autumn's last carrots under snowdrifts, layered between felt and horse dung. Earth's icebox, a Khazar woman grunts. Her breath hangs like crystallized yarn, stays colder down there than a tax collector's heart. History lesson time. Siberian nomads pioneered this stunt way before Tupperware parties. Permafrost cellars preserved mammoth meat so well 19th century explorers mistook it for fresh kill. Though to be fair, if you found a frozen hairy elephant steak after 16,000 years, wouldn't you barbecue it too? A Uyghur boy drops turnips into a pit lined with juniper branches. Granduncle says they once ate a melon in spring, he whispers. Still crisp, still sweet. You resist mentioning modern freezer burn. Why ruin the magic? Nightfall reveals the real trick, merchants stamping hidden symbols into the snow. Crossed sticks mean radishes here. A circle with lines. Fermented mare's milk, which, trust me, you want to approach like a sleeping bear. Historians still argue whether Roman snow shipments to decadent feasts borrowed these techniques, or just melted halfway home. Dawn cracks open the sky. You watch diggers exhume treasures, carrots snapping like glass rods, apples glossy as jewels. A Sogdian merchant tosses you a frost-whitened pear. It shatters against a rock. Oops, forgot to thaw the knife. His grin lacks several teeth. Snow preservation isn't free. Kids huddle atop storage pits all winter, pelting wolves with frozen dung. Better than guard dogs, one mother insists. Cheaper too, just boil their socks after spring thaw. The real star, ice blocks carved from mountain streams, cocooned in wool and buried deeper than regrets. You glimpse a brick-sized chunk sold as luxury goods from heaven's own cellar. The buyer licks it, then screeches, seems tongues stick faster than trade deals. A joke floats through camp. How snow hid last year's pickled cabbage so well. Travelers mistook the pit for a drunkard's grave. No one checks if it's true. The cold has stolen all humor below the knees. Spring arrives wearing a sandstorm mask. Workers brush grit from retrieved onions, each layer papery and perfect. Richer than nobles, a Mongolian elder croaks. They'll taste like earth and patience. You bite into one, it tastes like victory overwrought. Modern chefs would weep. No plastic wrap, no expiration dates, just clever humans tricking time itself with dirt and sky. The real Silk Road hack wasn't moving goods. It was making stillness your silent partner, your fingers numb around a retrieved cheese wheel. Its veins now iced blue, rind tougher than a camel's heel. Winter's stamp, the Khazar woman declares. She shaves a sliver with her dagger. Eat this and summer lives on your tongue. Somewhere beyond the dunes, monsoon rains gnaw at sugar stores. But here, in Earth's frozen pockets, the caravan's future sits preserved. Quiet, waiting, as patient as the stars wheeling overhead. Dust cakes your lips as the caravan halts, sun setting on a valley, stripped bare of snow. Camels droop like deflated waterskins. Time to meet the true backbone of survival, the humble lentil. You crouch beside a Sogdian trader, unpacking saddlebags. Dried legumes cascade out brown, green, speckled like pebbles from a miser's purse. Wait till they drink, he grins. Leather pouches slosh nearby, lentils bloating on stolen water from the last oasis. Mainstream fact incoming. These ugly little discs fueled empires. Roman legionnaires marched on lentil porridge. Buddhist monks owed their temple-building stamina to them. Yet here, they're just camel's revenge for making riders gassy. Watch the cook's trick. She tosses a handful into boiling water with a rusty dagger. Iron makes them tender, she claims. You don't ask how many dysentery microbes that blades murdered. Some questions ruin dinner. Nightfall brings the true spectacle, dung-fueled flames licking a soot-caked pot. Lentils swell into sludge as travelers barter additions. A Turkic horseman contributes questionable dried meat. Wolf, he insists. You spot a claw. Historians still argue whether caravan stews invented mystery meat or just perfected it. The cook scowls at your portion. Eat, or next time, we use your socks to strain the broth. Modern foodies would gag. You crunch grit between molars. Price paid for eating dirt road cuisine. Quirky alert. Some traders believed unchewed lentils warded off evil. They'd sew them into children's collars until the kids mistook them for snacks. You flick one into the fire. A satisfying pop echoes. The cook glares. Dawn reveals the genius. Leftover stew congeals into brick-hard slabs. Perfect for pocketing. Breakfast on horseback. A Tibetan merchant winks. He's wrong. By noon, it's a warm paste again, with bonus sand texture. Lentils even play banker. You witness debts settled with handfuls, 93 lentils for a broken bridle, 200 for a wool blanket. Inflation's merciless when a sneeze can wipe out your fortune. An Armenian elder whispers the real trade secret. Soak them in mare's milk overnight. Makes them spirited. You decline. Some experiments belong to the desperate. Scholars love debating why lentils thrived where fancier foods failed. Was it their protein? Or the way a well-aimed pouch could knock sense into a bandit? Tonight's answer comes via a rusty ladle thwacked against the pot. Less thinking, more scrubbing. The stars spin westward. Somewhere ahead, Persian markets smelling of saffron and lies. Behind a trail of lentil husks and bloated camels, you pocket a handful of the unassuming discs. However this ends, they'll outlast you. Dust cakes your lips as the caravan halts, sun setting on a valley stripped bare of snow. Camels droop like deflated waterskins. Time to meet the true backbone of survival, the humble lentil. You crouch beside a Sogdian trader, unpacking saddlebags. Dried legumes cascade out brown, green, speckled like pebbles from a miser's purse. Wait till they drink, he grins. Leather pouches slosh nearby. Lentils bloating on stolen water from the last oasis. Mainstream fact incoming. These ugly little discs fueled empires. Roman legionnaires marched on lentil porridge. Buddhist monks owed their temple-building stamina to them. Yet here, they're just camel's revenge for making riders gassy. Watch the cook's trick. She tosses a handful into boiling water with a rusty dagger. Iron makes them tender, she claims. You don't ask how many dysentery microbes that blades murdered. Some questions ruin dinner. Nightfall brings the true spectacle, dung-fueled flames licking a soot-caked pot. Lentils swell into sludge as travelers barter additions. A Turkic horseman contributes questionable dried meat. Wolf, he insists. You spot a claw. Historians still argue whether caravan stews invented mystery meat or just perfected it. The cook scowls at your portion. Eat, or next time, we use your socks to strain the broth. Modern foodies would gag. You crunch grit between molars, price paid for eating dirt road cuisine. Quirky alert, some traders believed unchewed lentils warded off evil. They'd sew them into children's collars until the kids mistook them for snacks. You flick one into the fire. A satisfying pop echoes. The cook glares. Dawn reveals the genius. Leftover stew congeals into brick-hard slabs. Perfect for pocketing. Breakfast on horseback. A Tibetan merchant winks. He's wrong. By noon, it's a warm paste again, with bonus sand texture. Lentils even play banker. You witness debts settled with handfuls, 93 lentils for a broken bridle, 200 for a wool blanket. Inflation's merciless when a sneeze can wipe out your fortune. An Armenian elder whispers the real trade secret. Soak them in mare's milk overnight. Makes them spirited. You decline. Some experiments belong to the desperate. Scholars love debating why lentils thrived where fancier foods failed. Was it their protein? Or the way A well-aimed pouch could knock sense into a bandit. Tonight's answer comes via a rusty ladle thwacked against the pot. Less thinking, more scrubbing. The stars spin westward. Somewhere ahead, Persian markets smelling of saffron and lies. Behind a trail of lentil husks and bloated camels, you pocket a handful of the unassuming discs. However this ends, they'll outlast you. The scent of overripe figs clings to your hands, sweetness curdling into vinegar sharpness. Dawn finds your caravan assessing leaks in the mercy of barter. Persian traders approach, eyes narrower than desert fox burrows. Their camels' loads smell of salt and deception. You unload split-open figs, their amber flesh crawling with opportunistic ants. Still good. Your Sogdian partner lies through honey-coated teeth. A silk merchant proffers cured goat strips that resemble tree bark. They're betting your hunger outweighs your standards. Mainstream fact slides in Byzantine archives, record spice for dates exchanges at spots like this. Official rates meant nothing here. Survival math required a poker face and flexible morals. Your partner's haggling voice climbs octaves. His beard quivers like an offended owl's chest feathers. The Turkic trader across the fire flips open a mold-speckled cheese wheel. Fuzzy means flavorful, he insists. You decline barely as he casually fingers his dagger. Historians still debate whether these negotiations inspired later chess strategies or just petty theft with more steps. A child darts past, palm outstretched. Through the dust, you recognize those figs you tossed yesterday. Now they're skewered on a stick, charred into caramelized delicacies. Market innovation thrives on others' discards. Sniff testing salt fish becomes your grim task. The seller claims Caspian origin. The gills suggest something died last Tuesday, possibly mid-negotiation. You offer fig paste. He counters with cinnamon sticks older than your sandals. Your camels yawn through the standoff. Quirky interlude. Some traders chewed mint during deals to hide fear breath. You've got onion-rubbed gums and a partner who reeks of desperation. The mint seller glides by, her prices quadruple as you inhale. Nightfall brings compromise. Half your figs, plus 3 questionable honey cakes, nabs a sack of millet, and 2 smoked duck legs. The duck's label boasts fire marinated. You don't ask which fire. Samarkand's inferno of 612 CE. Doesn't matter. Calories are calories. The real prize comes via whisper. A bent old woman offers clay jars of snow-packed yogurt. Last summer's mountain chill trapped inside. She wants your remaining lentils. The deal leaves your food stores leaner, but your survival odds pivot like a sundial's shadow. Morning reveals the calculus traders regret. Those yogurt jars broke during repacking or were stolen. Hard to tell. Your partner blames gin. You blame the goat that's suddenly avoiding eye contact. Ahead a salt, flat, shimmering, with heat haze lies. Behind the fig vendor's triumphant laughter fades. You count marbles of mutton fat, now serving as emergency rations. History won't record this trade. Your intestines might. The caravan marches on tastes like poor decisions and lingering duck. Someone's harmonica plays a tune older than barter itself. Appropriate. Everything hears secondhand. The harmonica's wheeze dies as heat haze swallows the last note, sand stinging your eyes like spiteful gnats. A camel collapses, knees folding like a house of sticks. No water left to mourn it. Then a shout. Someone's digging. You stagger over, shovel scraping against packed earth. 2 meters down, a gust of cool breath mocks the sun. Found great-grandfather's fridge, croaks the digger. His hands vanish into darkness and emerge cradling a melon so crisp, its green skin still sweats. Mainstream fact slides in cool as that fruit. Persian engineers mastered subterranean ice storage centuries back. Their yakchals funneled winter winds into Connaught tunnels, preserving snow through summers. But this hole, pure desperation, dressed in ingenuity. The pit yawns deeper, straw-stuffed walls bleeding earthy musk. Cheeses wrapped in damp linen wait like hidden treasure. A Bactrian trader lowers himself in his grin lit by stolen slivers of ice. Best heirloom south of Kashgar, he jokes, teeth chattering. Quirky alert, some believed these pits angered desert spirits. Caravans left honeyed dates at the edge stolen by dawn. You pocket a crumbling cheese wedge. The trader hisses, points to salt lines in the dirt. For scorpions or gin, same cure. Coolness clings to your tunic as you resurface, world tilting between oven and icebox. A Uyghur merchant rubs melon rind on her sun-cracked lips. Tricks the camel dung, she confides. Straw and droppings layered like cake, trapping chill under a blanket of stink. Historians still debate whether these cellars doubled as hideouts for bandits or lovers. You lean against the pit's edge, air kissing your neck like a traitorous spouse. Survival's always been a mix of poetry and mold prevention. Nightfall doesn't tame the debate. Traders crouch below ground, passing melon slices that crunch like stolen time. A Sogdian boy carves chess pieces from cheese. Queen melted, he shrugs. Checkmate by breakfast. Dawn exposes the trade-off. 4 jars of pickled turnips, missing swapped for a moldy keychain of yak leather. The pit yawns empty save for honeyed date pits left by someone or something. Camels sniff contemptuously. You pocket salt-stained straw, souvenir of a stop no map will ever bless. The desert reclaims its cold. Sand pours into the pit like golden syrup, erasing all but the legend. Tomorrow's heat will doubt it happened. Your sweat-stained tunic, still clinging to that stolen chill, knows better. The stolen chill abandons you by noon, your sweat turning shirt salt into itchy constellations. A new stench hits, part vinegar, part horse. Through the dunes, leather flasks slosh on a Kyrgyz trader's hip. He grins, drink dribbling down his beard. Mare's revenge, he says, offering you a swig. Your throat burns, fizzy sourness explodes like a war on thirst. Fermented mares, milk Kumis churns in the flask. Steppe nomads lived on this for centuries, their gut bacteria adapting to digest what would flatten a city dweller. A warrior once drank this before sacking Beijing, or so merchants whisper between wretches. The Kirghiz taps his flask, membrane-thin mare stomach lining straining against pressure. 3 sunrises shaking, he explains. Spoiled milk's a dead horse. This, he belches theatrically, liquid courage. Quirky fact, sneaks in Mongol soldiers' allegedly washed wounds with Kumis, believing its acidity scared off evil spirits. You eye the murky liquid. Modern science confirms lactic acid fights infection. 9th century battlefield medicine meets 21st century probiotics with a side of questionable hygiene. Historians still argue whether Kumis caused more victories or camp revolts. The Kirghiz trader doesn't care. He's bottling the foam for a Uyghur spice, merchant's arthritis. Better than crushed scorpions, he insists, pocketing bronze coins. Sunset reveals the cost. 2 mares stand hobbled their foals, nosing empty udders. A Sogdian girl collects fresh milk in a smoke-blackened pouch. She adds a spoonful of yesterday's brew, grandmother's breath, she calls it, to kickstart fermentation. You sip the new batch. Less vomit, more tang. Caravan humor surfaces. What do you call Kumis in a sandstorm? A beet. Yak butter. No one laughs. The drink's bubbles pop against your tongue. Carbonation, invented 300 years before champagne's discovery. Dawn breaks cruel. 3 traders clutch stomachs, overdosed on microbial ambition. The Kirghiz shrugs. We'll call it cleansing. His horse side-eyes him, wisely silent. By midday, Kumis proves its worth. A parched Persian trader chugs it, ignoring floating hairs. He survives. His silk bolts, sold for 12 more flasks. The drink's secret isn't taste, it's the math of desperation. 1 skin nourishes as much as 3 water canteens, if you keep it down. Nightfall brings reluctant innovation. A Tibetan monk stirs in honey, masking sourness with stolen hive magic. His creation foams over, earning scowls and a grudging nickname. Hippie of the Hindu Kush, someone mutters. The monk smiles, sipping history's first probiotic smoothie. When wells return, the Kumis gets poured on scorched hooves. Feeding the cycle, murmurs the Kirghiz. His mare licks the moisture, eyes half closed. You pocket the emptied stomach flask, its sour ghosts whispering survival tricks, future backpackers will Instagram #authentic. The desert claims the last drops. Sand grinds the flasks into dust, ready to flavor some archaeologist's cocktail party tale. Your tongue still prickles, bitter proof that sometimes salvation tastes like expired milk and poor choices. Wind-blasted grit scours your lips, the phantom tang of Kumis replaced by something sharper, fishier. Beneath swirling dust, cracked scales glitter like misplaced coins. You kneel, a crescent-shaped bone protrudes from the sand. 3 wooden frames loom ahead, raised crosses lashed with hemp. Sun-blackened carp hang like grotesque wind chimes, their split bellies yawning toward the sky. This is the Tarim Basin's answer to refrigeration preservation through dehydration. A Uyghur fisherman slices a fresh catch with a blade. Organs plop into a bucket. Fox bait, he grunts. Salt pours from a ram's horn, crystals embedding in flesh. Historians found these same scales in mummies' teeth, proving this protein fueled travelers for over 2,000 years. You touch a dried flank, it crackles like old parchment. The fisherman laughs. Eat a piece, he dares. One nibble, salt murders your tongue, followed by whispery meat dissolving into fish-flavored air. Quirky truth time. Fishermen here once wore scale amulets. Twin carp carved from dried roe to keep the river's spirit close during droughts. Someone tries selling you one now assessant and fuzzy with lint. You decline politely. Ribs become combs. Backbones transform into needles. Nothing's wasted. Even gills get stuffed into lambskin and buried as winter tea. You spot a grandmother crushing fins into paste, whisking it into a dubious broth. For strong knees, she nods. The village elder watching her hasn't stood since '83. Historians still argue whether wind-cured fish held ritual meaning or just smelled too foul for casual snacking. Debate grows spicy when you notice patterns carved into the racks, swirling symbols echoing distant Zoroastrian shrines. Sunset amplifies the odor rotting halibut meets sun-baked saddlebag. You retreat upwind, finding respite beside a salt pan. Workers pile crystalline pyramids chipped from the lake bed. Their calloused hands flash, thumbs missing from decades of brine burns. Nightfall brings relief and reconnaissance. Moonlight reveals a teen scraping mold off a carp's underside. Good penicillin, he jokes, probably misunderstanding biology. His sister barters the best strips to silk traders. 6 fish jerky pieces, buys 1 bolt's escort through bandit country. Dawn cracks the horizon. The fisherman inspects his wares, thumping slabs like a drummer judging hides. Satisfied, he bundles them in mulberry leaves. Keeps the stupid flies out, he mutters, smearing donkey fat over the package edges. You pocket a leaf-wrapped slice, emergency ration, or future regret. The first oasis emerges by noon. A Sogdian merchant eyes your jerky, offering fermented pears in trade. His nostrils flare. Smells like my uncle's socks, he remarks, still taking 3 pieces. Legends whisper of a caravan chef who powdered this fish into soup, feeding 1,500 with a single carp. You doubt the math, but your stomach growls agreement. The Tarim mummies didn't starve. Their preserved hair shows fish oil sheen, matching your jerky's chemical fingerprint. Wind reshapes the dunes, burying scales, unearthing bones. You kick a rib fragment, sending it skittering toward camels chewing cud with fish breath indifference. The cycles here mock expiration dates. Everything transforms. Nothing truly dies. Your last strip crumbles during a sandstorm, flesh particles stinging eyes alongside grit. Survival tastes like maritime arson and poor dental choices. Somewhere ahead, Jade Gate's walls promise new flavors, and the merciful absence of fish. Jade Gate's shadow licks your heels, its weathered stones humming with centuries of caravan hymns. You crunch past discarded fish bones, finally free of that briny afterlife stench. A monk waves incense ahead, smoky tendrils curling around clay jars taller than he is. Inside the vault, cool air hugs your skin. Scrolls cocoon grain sacks like protective parchment snakes. Cedar oil glistens on every surface, its sharp perfume cutting through the musk of stored millet. Magos librarians did this too, your guide murmurs. He means the caves of 1,000 Buddhas, where monks preserved Silk Road texts for 1,000 years. And nibbling insects avoided holy writ like divine poison. 3 novices circle a barley mound, chanting verses that vibrate your molars. Their palms press ceremonial cedar branches against the grain. Historians carbon-dated weevil-free stocks from these cellars, proving the method outlasted empires. Your guide winks, drops a live beetle onto the chanting circle. It flees toward the exit, legs scrabbling like a drunkard on hot coals. Prayers bake the air, an elder explains, rubbing thumb and forefinger. Makes it unwelcoming. His fingernails ooze ochre paste, crushed spider webs, and rancid butter. You recognize the recipe from Turkic pest control scrolls, though scholars still debate whether it repelled mice or just disgusted them into compliance. Something crunches underfoot. You lift your boot, a mummified rat mid-sprint, forever frozen in escape. The elder nods approval. See, run fast, die tired. His laugh rattles a jar of saffron, threads glowing like trapped sunset. Quiet fact, some jars here contain 7th century cumin. Archaeologists found viable seeds in 9 sprouting after 1,400 years of sacred storage. You inhale deeply, expecting spice, but smell only cedar's turpentine bite. Night falls. Monks lead you to a living pantry, barley cakes stacked like ceremonial bricks. Each bears a thumbprint seal and tiny Sanskrit mantras. Eat one, urges a novice. It tastes like dust and dedication. Your stomach remains silent, either in reverence or revolt. Moonlight reveals shadow play on the walls. 2 monks reenact an old debate, miming frantic rodents versus floating scriptures. One gestures to his groin, universal sign, for they ate my ancestors' best robes. The audience snickers until a real mouse scurries past their feet. Dawn brings a cacophony of sloshing. Novices lug goat stomach sacks of oil, dousing every shelf corner. An overeager teen baptizes your left sandal. Blessed moisture barrier, he claims, avoiding eye contact. You squelch toward the exit, leaving oily footprints that'll confuse future archaeologists. The head monk gifts you a travel amulet, clay stamped with anti-moth incantations. Works better if you believe, he shrugs. You tie it to your pack, next to last week's fish scale talisman. Belief seems cheaper than cedar oil out here. Hours later, a sandstorm tests the holy pantry seals. You glance back through whirling grit. The monastery stands untouched, its jars singing faint hymns beneath the howling wind. Rat bones dance past your ankles, chasing ambition beyond the desert's edge. Camp that night reveals the amulet's power, or lack thereof. Your dried apricots host a beetle rave. You crush the party with a rock whispering half-remembered sutras. Somewhere, monks are laughing. You flick beetle legs from your sleeve, still crunching that cursed apricot grit between your molars. Dawn reveals a new landscape, jagged mountains replaced by orchards of gnarled trees. Their split husks litter the ground like broken turtle shells. Almonds, mutters your guide, kicking a hull into the air. It arcs toward a passing camel, bouncing off its hump with a hollow ponk. A trader beckons you to his carpet, heaped with ivory nuts, still wearing their fuzzy green armor. His knife cracks one open, revealing the treasure inside. Armored snacks, he grins. Break tooth, win prize. You decline the challenge, remember last week's date pit disaster. Monastery kitchens nearby roast mountains of almonds over camel dung fires. A novitiate demonstrates the secret, soaking nuts in salt water first. Softens the shells, he claims, but your test bite nearly chips a molar. Mainstream history fact: almond groves flourished along Silk Road oases. Prized as currency, more stable than Byzantine coinage. Midday sun glints off distant dunes where sandstorm-buried almonds reportedly sprouted decades later. Merchants whispered of ghost orchards blooming after rare rains. Though you suspect wishful thinking over dehydrated brains, you pocket a handful for later. The shells clack against your fish scale talisman, an accidental maraca serenading scorpions at dusk. Campfire tailies swirl about almond milk beauty treatments, until someone points out your beard now hosts a shell fragment. Quirky tidbit: Buddhist carvings in Dunhuang show almond-eyed deities. Some scholars insist it's portraiture. Others claim 6th century sculptors just really loved those nuts. Your guide carves a Buddha face into an almond shell. It gazes heavenward with smug, nutty serenity. Cracking becomes the caravan's new obsession. Gamblers bet on shell thickness. Losers haul extra water skins. You find a 3-kernel anomaly, briefly considered holy, until souvenir seekers swarm your tent. Historians still argue whether almonds fueled travelers or just their gambling addictions. You muse, hiding the triple prize in your boot. By week's end, almond grit invades everything. It lines your teeth, textures your bread, creeps into your dreams as shrapnel from nutty meteor showers. Even camels start side-eyeing the groves, their cuds laced with shell splinters. You trade your last bolt of silk for a sack of pre-cracked almonds. The merchant's son operates a rock and Danville system, though half the kernels arrive pulverized. Skill improves with age, his mother shrugs. sweeping almond dust into a stew pot. Stars emerge as you finally taste success, a perfect kernel extracted intact. It crunches between your teeth, releasing oily sweetness that almost justifies the effort. A wild donkey licks salt from your palm, then nabs the remaining nuts. Lesson learned: almonds unite all desert creatures in delicious thievery. The trail ahead shimmers with discarded shells, a crunchy breadcrumb trail of failed snacking. Somewhere, a monk carves prayers onto an almond husk. You add it to your pack's growing orchestra of clattering relics. Moonlight reveals your guide's secret. He's using a camel tooth as a nutcracker. Traditional tool, he insists, as an incisor goes flying into the darkness. The camel seems relieved. Dawn finds you grinding almonds into flour with a saddle stone. The paste smells like future marzipan, but your attempt at baking ends with charred discs even jackals avoid. Alchemy takes generations, comforts a passing spice merchant, pocketing your failed experiment for study. Wind stirs the orchard's bony branches, clattering like 1,000 trading partners shaking hands. You stuff waxed linens with your remaining stash, while debating whom to gift that triple kernel almond. The desert decides for you. A sudden gust sends it rolling toward the Tarim Basin. May it found a dynasty. Wind carries the tang of goat hair and sour milk as you approach a cluster of felt tents. A woman in indigo robes beckons, her hands stained the purple of overripe figs. She stirs a goatskin sack tied to her saddle, its swollen belly sloshing with mysterious liquid. 30 days, ride, and still sweet, she claims, loosening the cord. The smell hits first, sharp enough to make your eyes water. What pours out isn't milk, but thick ivory curds flecked with desert grass. She dips a carved horn into the gloop, offering you a taste. Your tongue recoils, then relaxes into the cool tang. It lives, she whispers, tapping the skin. Mainstream historical fact: Silk Road traders carried bacterial cultures in leather flasks, spreading yogurt making from Mongolia to the Mediterranean. You watch her blend yesterday's yogurt into fresh mare's milk, a living heirloom older than the Great Wall. The mixture goes into a new goatskin tied beneath a sweating stallion's belly. Heat and motion would do the rest. An ancient incubator trotting toward Persia. Midnight finds you guarding a culture flask, swaddled in your spare tunic. Historians still argue whether merchants understood the science, or just new bladders that fizzed at dawn made gold at market. The stars blur as you drift off, dreaming of microscopic empires expanding in the dark. Dawn reveals disaster. Your flask bulges like an overfed tick, leaking white rivulets down the saddle. The indigo-clad woman laughs, poking the bloated leather. Baby needs air, she chides, venting gases with a bone awl. The hiss echoes across 6 camels, all carrying their own microbial passengers. Quirky tidbit: Mongol armies reportedly used yogurt to clean wounds, though your attempt to disinfect a blister leaves it smelling like a storm-drenched sheep. A passing trader warns you'll attract marmots, then offers fermented camel milk as a superior antiseptic. You decline, remembering his earlier sales pitch about lizard tail tonics. By noon, the culture's transformed its third milk batch. Children crowd around, daring each other to lick the stirring stick. One boy wins 10 pistachios with a full mouthful, only to panic when the tartness freezes his face into a puckered mask. First yogurt curse. An elder cackles, recounting legends of men who smiled backwards after stealing cultures. You trade a silver hairpin for a thumb-sized clay pot, its interior scarred with decades of bacterial colonies. The pot's owner mimes drinking, then flexing his muscles. Strength of 20 horses, he vows. Skepticism fades when his daughter lifts a water barrel barehanded, though you suspect showmanship over Streptococcus thermophilus. Sandstorms force the caravan into a cave where someone's hung yogurt skins from stalactites. Drips echo through the dark, each plink inoculating puddles below. A merchant licks a limestone shelf, milk rock. He proclaims, launching a frenzy of mineral scraping. You pocket a calcium-crusted stone, mentally designing the world's first probiotic geode. Moonlit rest stops become yogurt labs. Traders barter starter cultures like royal lineages. This strain survived Genghis Khan's wedding feast. Bargaining grows heated until someone invokes yogurt's alleged power to predict earthquakes. A quivering skin supposedly foretold the Antioch quake of 526 AD, though records mention collapsed cheese cellars, not clairvoyant microbes. The indigo woman finds you staring at a failed culture, its separated curds floating in yellowish whey. Grief milk, she sighs, stirring it into flour for flatbread. The dough rises alarmingly fast, producing spongy loaves that taste like sourdough's eccentric cousin. Camels devour them, then belch rhythms suspiciously similar to Uzbek folk songs. Near Samarkand, a perfumer offers rosewater-infused yogurt in blown glass vials. Cleopatra's breakfast, he croons. Though Egyptian queens lacked Bactrian camels to haul cultures across the Kizilkum desert, you splurge on a vial only to discover roses amplify yogurt's acidity into something resembling facial combustion. Your original cultures, now a great grand culture, shared across 15 leather flasks. The woman teaches you the traveler's prayer, rubbing a dab behind each ear for safe passage of invisible allies. That night, a bandit rooting through your gear recoils from the scent, muttering about cursed creams. By journey's end, your flask holds a writhing ecosystem. Scientists centuries later will call it Lactobacillus casenensis. But to the wide-eyed trader begging for a sample, it's the ghost that eats milk. You pour a portion into his helmet, watching greed war with germphobia on his sunburned face. Dawn's last push to the trading post, where Persian dairy maids cluster like flies. Their copper jugs steam with fresh buffalo milk. Perfect blank canvases for your cultures. One woman traces the air above your flask, murmuring incantations against evil spirits. Her competitor rolls her eyes, dunking a ladle in with pragmatic zeal. As coins clink into your palm, you spot the indigo woman across the square. She's feeding yogurt to a mangy street dog, its tail wagging as it licks the clay pot clean. The culture lives on in a dozen skins, 100 bellies, the digestive tracts of creatures yet unborn. Somewhere, a new leather flask swells under a saddle, beginning again. Your sandals crunch over sun-baked clay rooftops, each step inching between carpets of figs, blackening under the blaze. A barefoot boy squats nearby his shadow, the only moisture in 3 miles. He flicks pebbles at would-be thieves, be they human or sparrow. You pocket a fig, instantly regretting it, as molten sugar glues your molars together. Mainstream historical fact, these rooftops in Merv were medieval dehydrators, supplying caravanserais with 6 tons of dried figs per season. Women chant while flipping fruit, turning prayer into practical rhythm. 3 turns under Ra, 2 under Ishtar. One explains, though Ra never shone this far north. A trader whispers that Xerxes' armies marched on fig paste, while modern tests found suspiciously high caffeine levels in residue from his campaign flasks. Shade becomes myth here. You crouch beside a grandmother stringing figs onto camel hair, lines her hands moving like spiders on amphetamines. She nods to clay gargoyles jutting from roof edges. Not for rain, she rasps. Thieves see their twisted faces. Think demons guard the sweets. You humor her until spotting a would-be fruit bandit cross himself and retreat. Quirky tidbit digs near Bukhara, revealed fig pits dating to 200 BCE, mixed with charred scorpion remains. Some scholars insist they're proof of protein-enhanced trail mix. Others blame lazy cooks who didn't debug the harvest. You nibble cautiously, trying not to imagine the crunch. Dusk brings no relief. The rooftops now shimmer with oil lamps guard shifts, swapping stories of fig-related crimes. A teenage sentry boasts of catching a monkey, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, last monsoon. Their furry cheeks stuffed like stolen coin purses. We sold them to a spice merchant, he shrugs, trained them to sniff out cinnamon. You decline the offered smoked monkey jerky. Midnight thefts require creativity. A watchman demonstrates his scorpion in a jar deterrent until the jar tips, prompting a chaotic dance of stomping boots and panicked Persian curses. Historians still argue whether the famed fig laws of Samarkand protected fruit or just funded judges, sweet tooths. You mediate a quarrel over a jam-smeared sleeve. Both parties find in fig seed currency. 3 days pass before the figs transcend fruit. Their once plump flesh shrivels into ruby leather, sweet enough to make dates jealous. Workers fold them into lotus leaf packages, sealed with beeswax and paranoia. One crinkle could mean a death sentence here, where a fig's value outweighs its weight in low-grade silk. You pocket your earnings, a thumb-sized fig carved into a sleeping Buddha. The boy who guarded them tosses a dried stem your way. For luck, he says, already hurling pebbles at a vulture eyeing his livelihood somewhere beyond the rooftops. A camel's bell clangs, signaling the next caravan carries apricots seeking transformation under this same ruthless sun. You tighten your pack straps, modern buckles clicking like ancient horse tack, and trek toward neon-lit hostels where dehydrated lasagna fills vacuum pouches. That fig Buddha still digs into your hip, a wrinkled reminder that today's space-age food hacks are just Silk Road too. A backpacker ahead rehydrates noodles in a titanium pot, steam swirling like ghostly caravans. Mainstream historical nugget. NASA's irradiated strawberries trace back to Mongol warriors, sun-drying mutton. Astronaut ice cream, a corporate rebrand of Persian candy, sugar slabs Marco Polo, described as snow that never melts. You smirk watching a vlogger film, primitive, camping hacks, unaware his linen-wrapped cheese mimics 8th century Sogdian traders. Quirk alert. Himalayan trekkers still swap stories about a phantom merchant, apparently seen bartering with climbers for Snickers bars. Last year's viral photo showed a blurry figure in tattered robes, holding a freeze-dried meal skeptics blame altitude sickness and Instagram filters. You stash an almond cluster in your jacket, 90-proof comfort against modern myth-making. Campfire tailies turn competitive here. A biologist swears astronauts used sourdough starters on the ISS, though records say that yeast died in liftoff vibrations. Another insists through a mouthful of pemmican that Tang was stolen from Tang Dynasty fruit powders. Historians still argue whether freeze-drying counts as innovation or just dessert wisdom with a lab coat. You catch a whiff of smoked paprika. Its DNA matches spice residue found in Genghis Khan's alleged lunchbox. Moonlight glints off a tour group's foil-wrapped energy bars. Same sheen as 9th century Persian war rations dipped in beeswax. The irony's thicker than camel yogurt. Today's ultralight gear, obsessed with reinventing what caravan drivers perfected through hunger and sunstroke. At dawn, you join climbers lacing boots beside a frozen waterfall. Their pockets bulge with vacuum-sealed chai, descendants of brick tea, crumbled by Silk Road guides. One scoffs at your Buddha fig until you slice it open to reveal preserved elderberries inside. His GPS beeps approval, or maybe indigestion. Stars emerge like old trade maps as you sprawl on a glacier, pack straps chafing like ancient saddle sores. Somewhere above, satellites mirror camel trains crossing digital dunes, data packets replacing salt-cured mutton. You bite the fig Buddha's head off. Sweetness explodes. 13 centuries of problem-solving dissolved on your tongue. The night tastes like stolen melons, Xerxes, caffeine-laced figs, a grandmother's scorpion-peppered sacrifice. Tomorrow's trail snakes toward distant peaks, their slopes littered with electrolyte gel wrappers and ghostly hoofprints. You zip your sleeping bag, nylon rustling like waxed silk. Imagine future explorers puzzling over your gum wrapper in an ice core, wondering if 21st century humans ever stopped reinventing the wheel, or just kept spinning it beneath the same indifferent sky, hungry as ever. You unclip the last buckle, your sleeping bag sighing as it drinks the glacial chill. Distant campfires flicker, red echoes of caravanserai watchfires, where merchants once traded fig seed remedies for camel hair blankets. That wrinkled Buddha fig rests in your palm now, its leathery skin holding stories thicker than any vacuum seal. Above, satellites blink like updated constellations, trade routes rewritten in binary code. Breathe deep the thin air tastes of juniper-smoked meat and lithium batteries. A climber's headlamp sweeps the valley, its beam catching mica flecks that glitter like shattered Sogdian glassware. You unzip tomorrow's rations, freeze-dried apples crunching louder than 9th century sun-dried apricots in a Tajik merchant's palm. The night quiets. Even glaciers creak softer here, old ice groaning like overloaded spice carts. Your thermos releases steam in slow curls. Shapes hinting at incense swirls from a Dunhuang shrine. Somewhere below, a marmot chews an electrolyte pack, plastic crackling like parchment. Lie back. Let frost lace your lashes. Those neon hostels now seem mythic, glowing citadels where dehydrated hummus becomes a feast. You smile, throat humming with fig sweetness, older than Genghis Khan's conquests. Imagine tomorrow's climbers, their graphene jackets rustling like silk, freeze-dried curries mirroring Qin dynasty travelers' meals. Innovations, just a new word for remembering. Stars wheel closer, their patterns blurred by your drowsing eyes. A satellite streaks west, carrying data as precious as jade. Your fingertips brush the Buddha fig's empty husk. It crumbles into dust that gleams like desert sand under wasted wishbones. Sleep rises, a warm fog erasing borders between caravans and cargo jets. Your breath steadies, matching the slow pulse of yaks plodding through digital trade winds. Centuries collapse into your heartbeat. Hunger endures, so does the remedy. Dream of next summer's glaciers, thawing to reveal titanium sporks beside Tang dynasty copper ladles. Of some future soul chewing 24th century rations, suddenly tasting elderberries on their tongue, and laughing at how little the night skies changed. Let your pack straps loosen. The earth spins patient as a merchant waiting for monsoons. Rest. Tomorrow's trail already smells of juniper and jet fuel. Centuries from now, another traveler will trace your bootprints, finding communion in the weightless dark between stars and campfire ash.